And we are live with another episode of the Andor Aftershow, the final episode of the Andor Aftershow. I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and
your co-host, Sara. I'm so sad. It's the last Aftershow. I can't. What would I have given to have 12 of these?
12 more episodes or 12 more seasons?
After shows where I get to someone lets me talk about it for a long time.
Right. I mean, there are many after shows for many things, but Andor is something special. So we are here to talk about episodes 10 to 12 of season 2, which is also the final episodes of the season and final episodes of the series. It's just a 2-episode series, and we're here to talk about these episodes, Andor as a whole, maybe, touch into the sequel that comes after it, Rogue One. But it's not just me and Sara. If you're watching us live, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show, or, as of recently, more importantly, youtube.com/The Keeg Show. Or maybe you're listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. But however you're digesting us, maybe you could see us, maybe you can't. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, do your thing. Let us know you're out there. If you're in the chat, say hi. It helps us. But let me introduce our guests. First up, we got JJ.
Hi.
She needs no introduction.
We've done this a few times, haven't we?
We have. We did this back when you were Cat Lady JJ, and now you're Lady Dragon JJ.
Well, we did a few when I was also Lady Dragon JJ.
Did you? Yeah, for sure. But did you ever go back and forth, or was it just one switch?
It was one thing, yeah. I tried to test something else a few months ago, and I did it without telling anybody. So a bunch of people texted me, "Hey, I think you got hacked."
Oh.
So my bad. But we've done this a few times before. I'm always, happy to come back, and especially like this episode, and especially Andor,
for anyone
maybe
listening,
the last good Star Wars we'll ever get. I'm kidding.
We'll talk. I do want to talk about the impact, definitely, of what is going to happen and whatnot. Sure, but I do want to point out that you're on Central Time, right?
I am on Central Time, correct.
And so it's funny because right now we are recording on a Saturday. We've had a good couple of days since Tuesday to reflect on Andor as a whole and watch all the edits that are out there and maybe some YouTube recaps and whatnot. So sometimes having that little separation kind of helps us, compose our thoughts and get our crying out of the way. Maybe we cry on this episode, I don't know. But I think it's interesting that Sara and I, Pacific Time Zone, JJ, Central Time Zone. But then, on the other side of the international date line, we got Tate, a.k.a. Star Wars Facts Guy, over there in New Zealand. Tate, what's up, man?
Dude, first of all, I want to correct you. We're recording it on a Sunday morning at 7:05. 7:05. But we're doing really good.
For you, Sunday. For me. Who's to say what the truth is?
I am in the future. You guys are in the past. I could have given you a little bit of warning about the Andor finale, but I didn't. I was kind, but we are here. It's good to be here. It was amazing being here last time to chat with you. It was amazing last year to be able to physically see you in all 3 dimensions and dap you up and give you some love. And I'm grateful to be back now, especially to talk about Andor, something which has reignited my passion, made me actually like, wow, I really do want to talk about Star Wars all the time again.
Star Wars. Yeah, Star Wars. Sara and I have talked a lot about this, obviously, on previous episodes, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts before we even get to 10 to 12 about like Andor season 1 or like just Andor as a whole. Like, how's it impacted you? You guys watched it when it first came out, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people didn't. A lot of people just brushed it off and said, it's boring. And they didn't watch season 1 until they heard that season 2 was good, and then they went back and watched season 1.
Well, that was like the whole point of their marketing for season 2, the way they were pushing sort of like, critically acclaimed, the show comes back. They're like, listen, like, we are really good.
It's good.
Watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. Unless Tony Gilroy, secured himself a season 2 by contract, we wouldn't have gotten it. I'm sorry. I think would have been the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird situation because I was out for drinks with friends like 2 nights ago, and one of the guys was chatting to me. He's like, "Oh yeah, I see Andor's new season came out." I'm like, "Yeah, it's really good, dude. There's a lot of like awesome build up, and it carries on the momentum." And he was like, "Yeah, I watched season one. You know, it was pretty slow, pretty boring." And then I stopped, and then I started again, and then I stopped, and then like I got to the prison part, and that was really cool. But then I stopped. And I was like, okay, so there's like a general, like, kind of casual consensus of, it was a slow show, and then the hype moments at the end were like, whoa, 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 whoa. So I think once people started to kind of work through those slow wrinkles, people really started to get into it. But it's a hard pill to kind of make people take when you're coming off of a franchise that usually operates on like quick, zippy, snappy, um, really high energy show to have something that's more meditative and cerebral. It's a tough sell. And I think I agree. It wasn't easy for people to get into
No.
originally.
Which is
Yeah.
interesting because the original trilogy is also truly so slow.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that I don't think you fully realize until you watch it, as I have with my child. And I was like, oh my God, they're on Hoth for so long. I thought we just zipped into Hoth,
In and out.
and zipped out. Yeah, tripped some AT-ATs and then left. But yeah, I'm like, oh my God, they're on Hoth for like an hour. So the slower approach is, I don't know, maybe it speaks to our collective short time spans.
I think it's
Maybe if they put-
2025.
yeah.
The recency bias too is,
Yeah.
is pretty
We got that TikTok time span now.
That's
Yeah,
it.
just put Subway Surfers underneath
Yeah.
Andor and get everyone watching
No.
it. That's my
I think A New Hope is 2025 slow, but I don't know because I probably watched in like 96. I don't think it was 1996 slow. I watched A New Hope in 30-minute increments before, because I was carpooling with a friend, and I would go to his house before, and we watched it in like roughly like 4 increments, right? Of like 30 minutes before we had to like jump into the car and like head to school. I don't remember it being slow. I remember watching it, right? Because I knew the general consensus of like lightsabers and like Star Wars. I don't know when the special edition came out in theaters, but it might have been around that time I watched it on like VHS. So I don't know whether it's 1996 slow. It's definitely 2025 slow. But also I think that Empire Strikes Back banks on the fact that like they're hoping they earned enough like narrative capital to like keep you on Hoth for a little bit. They're like, you know the characters, you love the characters. Now watch them in the snow for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hoth is too long when you
Yeah.
think
I
about
mean,
it.
when you shoot on location, I guess you got to earn every dollar of that tape. You're like,
Yeah.
we're going back. We're
Yeah.
putting the Tauntauns back on. Get them out there. Like,
I think also when you're a mega fan, you are like, it's much difficult to engage with a normal piece of media that you're so invested in. Like everything is a big deal when you watch. I don't know. For me, like New Hope is like a religious experience. So it's like Empire, even Return of the Jedi. I've grown to like that movie way more over the years. Yeah, I can't imagine for a casual fan, they're gonna be kind of bored and think it's corny.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I had a Loftcat Yule log on my TV where like it was just a
Nice.
cat, a Tuca cat in front of a fireplace, right? So like I'll literally watch Star Wars paint dry. So yeah,
Same.
it's like, that's the whole thing with Andor where I'm like, I feel like there's certain people I can recommend it to because I'm like, I know you're gonna get it. And then other people I'll be like, I don't know. I don't know if this is your kind of show. I think that I think it's an amazing show, but at the same time, there are certain people where I'm like, like all of my students, I teach 10th and 11th graders, and they were so hyped to talk to me about Daredevil Born Again, and less hyped to talk to me about Andor. But then we interviewed someone for a job yesterday, and he was like, "Oh, I love Andor," and I was like, "You're hired."
there you go.
Andor is such a separation from what we've been getting from like the Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and Acolyte, and Bad Batch, like all these recent things, and we're not fresh off of the sequel trilogy that's still sort of going through motions. We don't know the outcome of in the future how that's going to be received again. So like Andor is such a break from like the pew pews and the wishes and the bow bow. Do you know what I mean?
There are plenty of pew pews though. There are.
Yeah.
There, yeah, no, I get it. I get what you're saying, but you know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
Like it's the lightsaber, it's the magic space wizards with glow sticks. Like it's a separation from that into more of the political aspect. And judging and looking at the world that we live in, it is probably one of the most aggressively unsubtle piece of anti-fascist media that we have gotten in eons, and it's like extremely like been eye-opening, and it's like changing the way I think we pursue some of the other medias. We were having a conversation in a private chat with a friend of ours regarding something else. Is like Andor has quite literally opened up my eyes how to perceive other pieces of media, how to look at them with a discerning eye. So for that, and not just because it's Star Wars and we're our nerds that like Star Wars, this should be required watching in schools and like by casual audiences because of the time that we live in.
I think something like Andor and a lot of other things, basically, I've been watching the MCU movies again with my mom, trying to reintroduce her, and I'm skipping certain movies that I know she's not gonna like vibe with.
Age of Ultron. And what?
Yeah, we skipped Age of Ultron.
Good idea.
But there are narrative pieces that like I have to like tell her about and fill her in when it comes to moving on. But we skip like the Thor movies. She wasn't vibing.
Very smart.
She doesn't vibe with that, you know? And so like Captain America, she vibes with like those like grounded stuff. Spider-Man, even though it's not grounded, but like it's a little bit different. I watch her and I'm trying to see like I only know when something is slow when I can watch other people and like watch it with other people, right? And I'm just like, you're right, it is slow. So like Star Wars does have slow moments. Here's a question before we get into everything about with Andor. I feel like Andor season 1 started off a little bit slow, and then it hooked me and it hooked a lot of people, but a lot of people didn't watch season 1 until season 2 was said to be good and then went back. How do you guys convince your friends, the people close to you, to watch Andor? How do you trick them into eating their veggies and then show them like veggies can be cooked in like delightful ways, right? It's not just eating your veggies. Like Andor stir fries it and like makes it really good. That's what I'm comparing it to. How do you guys convince people to watch it?
Damn, that is a good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah. I think it's weird because you basically need to Trojan horse the idea of a show to someone. And it's tricky because I know myself. If you tell me, oh, Tate, you should watch this show, I'm not gonna watch it. I have to enjoy something. I have to discover it in my own time. It's more beautiful when you find something in your own time on your own terms than someone being like, hey, Squid Game season 3 is out. You should watch Squid Game season 3 because the rest of the world is watching it. You know, it's so much like social pressure to do something. But if I had to try and sell a show like Andor to someone, I would just say like the way I sell all Star Wars to people is based on what do you like about the franchise. This is my crackpot way of pitching Star Wars to people. You watch the original trilogy, then I go, what did you like about it? And they'll be like, oh, I kind of like Darth Vader. He was pretty cool. I'm like, cool. You should watch the prequels next because that's what you liked. And I'm like, okay, well, what else did you like? Oh, I like Luke, Han, and Leia. I wonder what they do next. Cool. You should watch the sequels next. So if you watch Star Wars and you're like, oh, I really thought like the Empire were kind of interesting and the Rebellion were interesting, I'd be like, great, you should watch Rogue One next. Then you'll probably enjoy that. And then you build on from there. So it's really about finding what people enjoy about the franchise and then build on to that. And I think most people are like a base intrigue level. If it's not like, oh yeah, stormtroopers look cool, I want to buy action figures, or like, yeah, these character designs are wicked, I want to get toys and I want to change my lock screen on my phone. I think at a base level, most people are interested in the surface aesthetics of both of those factions enough that you're able to probe them into going deep and be like, hey, there's actually more to them than just aesthetics. There's reasons behind these aesthetic choices. There's a reason that they emulate these World War II designs. So let's go back. Let's bring it back. So you just got a Trojan horse based on interest, really. Otherwise, no one's really gonna. It's a struggle to force a show like that onto someone. But if you can catch the right person, I think they can get it.
Especially because they associate Star Wars with with lightsabers and duels. So you're telling them, oh, watch Star Wars without the lightsaber.
It's tricky.
It's really tricky. It's very tricky.
Yeah. I mean, if they like the toys, maybe like something like Clone Wars or like those type of cartoons might work a little better because you see different aliens, different episodes, different things.
Exactly.
Right? maybe that's
Exactly.
like people's vibe, you know. Shout out to anybody in our chat. If you're out there watching us on youtube.com/The Keeg Show or twitch.tv/The Keeg Show. We are pushing YouTube more than Twitch, but hey, pick your poison, baby. Shout out to Brett Lloyd on the YouTube chat, and shout out to Ginger Snark on the Twitch chat. Ginger Snark says she usually calls Andor a breath of fresh air in the Star Wars media to convince people to give it a try, or she compares it to a spy/thriller slash heist type media. Imagine if HBO made a Star Wars show.
And that's where I was gonna go with how would I recommend it? I would package it into the prestige of the golden age.
Prestige TV.
Because that's sort of what I am so sorry. This cat is so obnoxious.
Okay.
I apologize for that. He get off of me, please. I would literally sell it as, do you enjoy Breaking Bad, Mad Men, Sopranos, like good dialogue, good characters, like good plots, like all those types of things, then Trojan horse, like Tate put into Andor. Because again, selling Star Wars without a lightsaber is very difficult. And also, not to sound like a total dickhead, you gotta know your audience. Like if you're like in a group of friends, you could kind of like cherry pick. You kind of gauge your friends' interests over time, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of know what they're gonna be into. I know what's in my group who's not gonna be into something. So I'm just not gonna try. And I agree with Tate because I'm inundated with 100 comments a day. You need to add this to your watch list. So I am burnt out and overwhelmed by the TBR, by the TBW, by to be watched. So it's very difficult to like go at people. Hey, you need to watch Andor because it's. So you just have to kind of like pique their interests. What do you like? What do you like the best? And try to maybe do it a prestige.
I don't ever recommend any. Well, I do recommend that people, but I don't convince anyone to watch anything. I'm so bad at that. Like movies, that's another thing. Like I have been evangelical about Sinners to my all of my
anybody that has ears.
All of my white middle-aged colleagues. I've been like, go watch Sinners, and then they watch Sinners, and I'm like, fantastic. I have Interview with a Vampire for you next. Right. So it's actually harder with something like Andor to convince someone to watch it. Because like my cousin is kind of a baseline Star Wars. Like he watches everything that comes out, and he's been talking about Andor, and he's like, I actually, I really love Andor, right? My brother, who grew up with me playing with the Star Wars toys, watches Andor. But like my mom, like, I don't know if you would like Andor. Like, I don't know. I think you would feel alienated by like, I don't really know these people. Like, you don't have to. And then my dad, it's like, I would have to tap him and be like, pay attention to this. Remember this thing?
Yeah.
And that's the problem. That's right there what you just said, Sarah.
You have to really pay attention to it. Something like, oh my God, I'm talking about Interview with a Vampire. Interview with a Vampire is one of my favorite shows. And it's like, you can watch it on full blast, right? You can watch it and pay attention to every little detail, and every little detail is beautiful. You can also watch it for like, I love these sassy vampires, right? You can watch it for like the drama and the gory part of it and that part of it. Whereas Andor is very like, and it's not a critique of it, but it demands your attention, right? And it also demands like a rewatch. Like there's moments in these episodes that literally don't pay off until you watch the episode again. Like the moment with Luthen where he tells Clea to move and she kind of smiles at him the first time, you don't get that until after a rewatch. That's like one of the first lessons he taught her. When I say move, you move. And you don't get that. That's a payoff that happens only on the second watch. Yeah. Right. Watching, the Narkina 5 arc over again, knowing that you're going to get to I Can't Swim is like so much. It's not better, but like it's kind of better, right? Like how often is something better the second time you watch it? Like that's so bizarre. Like without the, but I also think that's part of, sorry, I'm going to stop in a second. That's part of the, Rogue One of it, right? Knowing how it ends and then going back to the story is the entire like thesis of like the entire premise of Andor. You already know where we're ending. So it makes sense that a show like Andor would be so rewatchable and you'll gain so much more on a second watch.
Yeah. The way I say it, and I was talking to my girlfriend just literally moments ago about how I would talk about Andor, And like, it is the most adult that Star Wars has ever been, but I don't consider that a selling point because that means so, like, when people say HBO, I imagine like naked people in prison showers and like gratuitous nudity and like sex and violence and
That's fair.
and profanity, right? Or in the sense, like, I've never fully watched Game of Thrones, but like, let's throw in incest, and it's like the shock value is earned in this. It's not just for the sake of having shock, and there isn't profanity, and there really isn't like sex. I guess it's alluded to, but like, it's not adult in the way people think of like rated R, NC-17, adult. It's
Explicit,
more,
you mean? Yeah.
It's adult in the sense of like, it's smart. It's the smartest Star Wars has ever been. That's what I say. It's smart.
It's hard to say that though without sounding like a dick. Like, it's really smart. Star Wars.
It's,
like,
it's a political thriller is what I kind of say.
Yeah, because then you get the like, I love Rebels. Rebels is one of my favorite properties in all of Star Wars, and it's hard to have the conversation of Andor of like, Andor is Star Wars for adults, and I'm like, you know what else is Star Wars for adults? The cartoon. Like, you know, like, this is, it's not, you can have adult, nuanced, incredibly deep conversations about Rebels the same way you can have them about Andor, but you know, and you can have, especially in this last arc with K2, I love my son who murders people. I talk about Chopper and K2 almost the exact same way, right? With the exact same type of affection.
Energy.
So it's just, it's asking you to take, it's like you have to watch it, but you have to kind of like take it seriously, which doesn't sound like a lot of fun unless you're weirdos like us that love to take stuff seriously and then talk about it forever.
That's it.
So it's, you know, you're not going to have, it's weird to try to sell a show and be like, you're not going to have a ton of fun. Like, you're not going to want to eat popcorn while you're watching it, but it's great. And like, okay, I guess. You're like, I don't know.
Yeah. For a casual person, it's difficult.
Yeah. To the point of Rebels and... Oh, sorry. Go. Oh, no, I was just going to say, to the point of Rebels and Andor, like, it's such a funny dichotomy how they both run so parallel to each other canonically, because they're side by side. They're happening at the same time. My friend mentioned when we were watching season 2, and it's the whole stuff with the Maya Pei, like, little rebellion. It's like that 2-episode arc. And he was saying, he's like, you know, Zeb would have sorted this out in 20 minutes. He's like, he would have stolen that ship. He would have stolen that ship in 20 minutes, and it would have been a little filler episode, and he would have been gone. It's so awesome that there is that level of, like, you can have your cake and eat it too, but they both have intrinsic value. Like, you can consume both, and they're both valid as an adult, like you said so wonderfully. And I think it's like, it's adults in the sense that you can't watch it like this. You can't be on your phone. You can't be looking. It encourages you to engage with it, not to consume it. And that's kind of the problem with a lot of the more a me thing. I'm not speaking for everyone. You guys know that I don't need to do T's and C's. But a lot of modern Star Wars is like Wikipedia page fillers. Like, they just exist to expand the Wikipedia page. They're fun, but that's all they do. Here you can really sit and simmer with the ideas, and I think that's the adult part, is that you get ideas. You get water cooler conversation. You get podcasts like this where you could really just sit and talk about it. I think that's where I would say the adult aspect lies in, that you actually have to watch it. Like, you have to engage with it.
Yeah.
Like you can do with Rebels, which you can do. It's all your focus determines your reality, whatever Qui-Gon says, that one.
Yes, and nice. I have 11 pages of handwritten notes.
Nice.
They're color-coded. They're color-coded as well.
Amazing.
I love you for that. I love you for that. That's awesome.
I would do Google Doc, and not as nice as yours.
I did a Google Doc last week, but then this week I put on press-on nails, and I can't type as fast. So I was like, handwriting.
Real.
I was just gonna say that Andor is almost like true love to me. Like you know, like there's certain things that you watch that are just like bam, biff, kapow, awesome, great, hot. It's just a hot person that like you like to have fun with, and like Andor's like the beautiful person that you want to spend time with, and you want to learn from, right?
It's actually
like,
beautiful.
Interesting metaphor.
It's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's beautiful in a way.
I don't know. I feel like when
there's a poetry to it.
Yeah.
Book of Boba Fett, that's a regrettable one night stand. And
Book of Boba Fett is you're dating one person who like starts off okay, cool, and then suddenly a second person jumps in and tags them out for 3 episodes.
You're
like,
your
wait a minute.
problematic ex shows up
your
right in the middle.
Your ex shows up and you're like, what?
They rip off their like face like a Scooby-Doo mask, and it's like, surprise, it was me.
I'm not ready.
Grogu merch commercial.
Okay, this is where our metaphors and our things start to fall apart. I do want to talk about these episodes. I asked though on Instagram, I asked people not only were they watching Andor, as a lot of people are watching Andor, and then a good amount of people haven't started yet, but they want to, which is fair, you know? But I did ask everybody, like, what would they rate it, A, B, C, or D/F? And a lot of people said A. Nobody said anything lower than A. But then I would get literal messages saying, like, Ginger Snark messaged me personally, and she said, where's A++? Like, you know? Or I got another message that said S, like S tier, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I think that the show is really resonating with people. So just shouting out that. And then Remo Photo message with thoughts just saying season 2, episode 3. So I'm assuming the Mon Mothma dancing episode will live rent-free in his head. And then Andor isn't just peak Star Wars. It's a masterclass in episodic storytelling. So
it is.
Wanted to shout out the people who were there and turning that in. Our YouTube chat is popping off. Brent Lloyd says we want to hear what the cat thinks about Andor. I would assume perfect. Perfect.
This homicidal maniac would build
lift them up.
He has
Let us
jammed,
see.
He jammed his claws right into my thigh. So if I do, there will be injuries. Let me see if I can.
There's going to be injuries regardless. Come on. Give Brett what he wants.
Yes, there's Pepper. What did you think of Andor?
Sounds about right. Sounds good.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Still contemplating and like unpacking it all.
I didn't have my Andor shirt today, or my hoodie is actually dirty, so I was like scrambling. Like I don't want to wear a regular Star Wars shirt either, so you can't see it. My shirt says "Visualize Industrial Collapse." I thought that was appropriate for today's episode.
So
very appropriate.
Yeah,
very appropriate.
So I thought it was appropriate.
Eli
for those
Skywalker,
who can't see it.
Yeah, Eli Skywalker says, so true. I've been rewatching Andor to notice all of its nuances for this exact reason. Harith says, I'm the biggest canon snob, but I agree a lot of Star Wars spoon feeds the audience information, which I do think is the difference between Andor and some of the others. Harith says they treat their audience like adults and expect us to fill in the blanks. Priscilla C, shout out to Priscilla, saying, where is S? And then
it's
Andor,
above A on ratings.
Yeah.
Is this your YouTube?
This is the
Okay.
YouTube chat. And Harith says Andor is not just a great Star Wars show; it's one of the greatest TV shows of our time. And then Tito's Dorito says, and I'm assuming talking about the cat, was left speechless about how good it was.
Exactly.
So, quick question. I keep on coming up with quick questions. If someone hasn't seen Rogue One, do you tell them to watch Andor season 1, Andor season 2, then Rogue One, or watch Rogue One first, then 1 and 2? Because there was somebody in my trivia night that hadn't seen Rogue One and doesn't know how it ends, and that's almost like a very, very specific person that you could test that on.
Interesting.
I want to say you need to watch Rogue One first, but I think it would be a fun experiment if someone didn't. But in the same way that Better Call Saul operates better if you've seen Breaking Bad, you have to, Andor operates better. Like the entire final scene of the show operates solely on the knowledge that you know Cassian is going to die. Like the whole emotional payoff there operates on the fact you've seen Rogue One. So I think you got to watch Rogue One first. Yeah.
Rogue One first. I agree.
Yeah. but it would
And
be
also
interesting.
it helps with because I watched Rogue One before the series finale, and just because I wanted to see what kind of
Me too.
nuggets they're gonna drop in the last 3 episodes. I was hoping very minimal. So, but I still watched it to, it's better in my opinion. Way better.
At the end of episode 9, we get Mon Mothma getting led out of the Senate. This is Mon Mothma finally leaving for Yavin, and that's kind of where, they finally get her off. They finally get her, you know what I mean.
Dimithri.
That's not what I was getting at. But then now we had to look forward to a year jump. And at the end, Bix had left Cassian. Cassian ignites K2SO, and then that's it for episode 9, right? So in this week, these final 3 episodes, it starts off a year later. I don't even know where it first starts off. Sara is Note Master.
So episode 10 starts off on Luthen's shop with the comms beeping. So there's no Andor in episode 10.
At all?
Nope.
Fantastic.
Nope.
Oh, dang.
No Cassian Andor in episode 10. We start on the comms beeping on Luthen's in his shop, and we end on Luthen fading to black. There's no Cassian. We got the meeting with Lonnie. We've got Dedra Luthen confrontation. Luthen stabs himself not super well. Leia breaks in to the hospital, takes him off life support, and then throughout all of that, you've got the flashbacks going.
That was all episode 10?
That's all episode 10. Also here, arrest Dedra. That's in episode 10. We don't get Dedra her being interrogated and stuff till episode 11, but yeah, episode 10 is Luthen backstory, finding out about the Death Star from Lonnie, killing Lonnie, and then that whole it's all Luthen Clea.
I thought it was an interesting choice to go into Clea, specifically Clea, and bump her up. I don't hate it. I loved it, but I thought it was very interesting choice to kind of surprise us with that. How did you guys feel about the episode 10?
Is it too bold to say that's my favorite episode of the whole season 2? It was just so constrained, and Luthen is my favorite character in this entire series. So for me, that was like a perfect episode to give him some background without actually giving us in too much. He's been through war and war trauma, but you still don't know what the conflict was technically, where he was at, where he comes across Clay as a young child, and then you see the process of him teaching her how to maneuver around violence as well. So that way we know why she is the way she is in the future, how their dynamic is, because it's very father-daughter like. It's given Saw Gerrera and Jin that's to me a direct parallel to 2 of them.
Yeah.
And also the idea that you have to kill him, your adopted father figure, to spare him torture, to spare secrets coming out, whatever Dedra was planning to do, to me that was devastating. I could not come to my senses for a good 15 minutes. I could not breathe. I dare say that was my favorite episode. I'll have to reflect back and rewatch the whole season, but for me that was a peak episode.
Yeah.
I think there were times in real time as I was watching it for the first time where I was like, do we have time for this? I don't know why. I thought is there a more efficient use of our time than the Luthen backstory? And I don't know why. I think I was just hyped up on we have to get to, because there's a destination you have to get to, right? But then on a rewatch, I enjoyed it a lot more. And it's and the way that they've been placing Clea since the beginning, Clea's been secret MVP since episode 1 of this
pretty
season,
much,
right? We brought her back in such a big way. So to get the emotional payoff of the fact that she not only takes him off life support, but does it without any hesitation, right? You have to know how well she has been built to do that, right? Through her work with Luthen, but also how much Luthen means to her, right? So that it's that much more impressive. This is, for all intents and purposes, her father. And he also taught her everything she knows about spycraft. And then you get the like, it was 3 guys. Actually, it was just Clea.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And you guys know, if I love anything, I love a lone wolf and cub. Like that is my bread
unbeaten
and butter.
trope.
I got so much like X-23 vibes. I was getting the Hound and Arya vibes a little bit. One of my favorite perverse father-daughter duos. And of course, that's what I mainly cosplay. I mainly cosplay, oops, I'm your dad now. Right? We've done Joel and Ellie. Hilarious. We've done Mando and Grogu. We've done Obi-Wan and Leia. We've done Kanan and Sabine. We've done Joel and Ellie. And now we have to do, my daughter and I are going to do Luthen and little Clea. She's already picked out the outfit she wants. So,
is there anything so undoing as a daughter? That's all I could think about with 2 of them, with Silco and Jinx and Arcane. Like that's all I could think about when I. I knew it. I knew that.
I love Arcane.
That would jolt him out better than caffeine or Red Bull combined. But it gave me those vibes, and it's one of my favorite tropes of like complicated relationships between fathers and daughters. Like on personal end and also in fiction, I think it's usually done quite well. And I've listed a couple of examples on my Twitter account just because I was like going through motions and I rewatched that episode. So yeah, I think that's probably why it's my favorite, because it's heavily focused on that trope that I really enjoy.
It's very up there, honestly, when it comes to like episodes for me. I always respect the Stones on a show when they decide to do a self-contained episode, and especially one about Claire, who was the underrated MVP of season 1, finally getting that story for season 2. I mean, it's probably one of the best episodes of the show. It reminds me a lot of Daredevil season 3's Karen episode, which is my favorite episode of that entire show, which is just Karen doing her thing, and it's a very human story of that very grand crime series. It's a very human story tucked in, and it's seamless. Like Sarah was saying, like I was also like, hey, we're on a clock to Yavin. We need to get going. Like I don't know what's happening over here, but it ended up being so beautiful and so poignant. I've been doing a lot of reading, a lot of research about the thought process of what went behind it. And Tony Gilroy quite literally said, I wrote this episode because if I didn't do it, someone would mess it up. Like he's fully cognizantly aware that Star Wars creators would go write a book or a comic or make something about it and retroactively do it. Like I think he said in an interview, he's like, yeah, I don't want people to think there was like a weird like sexual dynamic or some weird thing going on.
I beg your pardon?
He said this blatantly.
Yep.
He said this blatantly.
I listened to that interview.
Yeah, it's like someone is gonna say some weird shit about it, and it's just
I'm not surprised.
Work. About Luthen and Clea, right?
Yeah. Before someone writes a book or a comic where they have a romantic relationship, I want to head that off and cement the canon.
People sometimes they don't read into subtext, especially when you have a non-biological father-daughter duo. Like they don't know how to do discernment or do subtext, so the discourse gets really, really lost in the sauce like this quickly. So Tony Gilroy being ahead of the insanity that is
No,
I mean,
100%.
It's not just Star Wars fandom. It would be any fandom.
Yeah, no, true.
That they could people will write that, because weirdly enough, I mean, there's a lot of like old man young like love interest sort of things in any sort of fiction. So I will shout out that I do want more lone wolf and cub with badass Sarah Connor type character and like John Connor. You know what I mean? Like flip. Like
gender
gender swap. Like have a mom and a son, sort of lone wolf and cub stuff.
Tales of the Underworld. Watch that.
Was it good?
I'm good.
I mean, it has that trope. Is it good? No, it's not. But it has that trope. How about that? I say this is a Asajj Ventress like mega stan.
I think that well, a lot of people in the chat just saying some good stuff. Harith says loves how Luthen and Clea are like the direct mirror to Jin and Saw, because one of you guys mentioned Jin and Saw, and like Saw dropped Jin pretty fast. Harith says key difference was Saw viewed Jin as a burden that he didn't ask for, so Saw shoved her to the side, while Luthen viewed Clea as a kid And I do have to add the caveat that he doesn't normally call her his kid. And he specifically said, she said, "Am I your daughter?" And he goes,
when
only...
it's useful.
When it's convenient. Yeah. Or something like that.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to disagree on Harriet's take on Saw and Jin's dynamic a little bit.
Okay.
But I that's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Sorry.
If Jin would have stayed, she would have been Huff and Rido, and like she would have never made it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, the circumstances, the environment in which these two young women have grown up with these violent two revolutionaries is so different.
Yeah.
So that's going to impact the dynamics of how they treat their adoptive daughters.
The Claire actress, I don't want to butcher her surname, Elizabeth. I think it's Dulau. I don't want to butcher it, but if I did,
It's Elizabeth.
But she said in the interview, she's like, I don't want to base it off primarily interviews because what you see on the screen is what you get. But I did feel this on screen too. She's like, Claire was old enough to remember her mom and her dad. Like, she wasn't like a baby. She was like 10, 11. She's
That's
like,
true.
She said, she's like, she hates Luthen. She still hates him because she's still the man who went to her village and killed her entire village. She still hates him, but there's also that part that growing with him that also loves him as well. It's a very weird dynamic where she's like, I hate what you did, but I love, like I have a love for you now for what you became out of that. So they operate at a really different frequency of like mutual respect born out of a real tragedy. And even in the final moments, there's a confliction there. Like she will do what she needs to do. And I think Elizabeth even said there's a bit of animosity there. But apparently she played the moments as when she looked at Luthen's face, she remembered the first time that Luthen made Claire laugh as a kid. And that's kind of what got her into that headspace. So they operate at a really weird level. Jin and Saw was kind of like, they kind of started off normal, then Saw was, Huff and Rider and doing all this bananas stuff and going crazy.
Yeah, he's out there.
But Luthen and Claire, to me, fascinates me because they very much are water and oil that work. They really shouldn't work together. She should not work with him, but at the end of the day, they somehow do. They really defy the odds in that dynamic. And I think that's what makes it interesting. It's two people that shouldn't really work at all.
Yeah.
Working. And it's if I would parallel it to anything, I would parallel it to Marva and Cassian.
I was about to say, yes.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that on a regular A-level show, like getting to be an A-level show is like showing symmetries, showing, things on one side and the other. Andor is like a kaleidoscope. It's symmetry on symmetry connected with other things. Andor, that I think personally, that is what takes it above an A. Like the fact that we created S tier for.
And it's been interesting for me because people are talking about like comparing Clea and Dedra, and I was like, for me, Dedra's arc is so much more of a parallel to Cyril. Like Cyril's big thing is he couldn't expand out, right? He had that moment in Gorman, then he saw Cassian and was like, oh, back on program, right? Like I can beat the shit out of this. This is the guy I've been looking for. Dedra could have been a perfectly fine, useful person in the Empire, but what did she have to do? She had to find Axis, and she had to do it herself, and that was her thing. It's the exact same way that Cyril focused in on Cassian, and that led to his death. Her focusing in on Axis led to her being on Narkina, whatever, at the end, right? Like if she would have, she took a promotion on Gorman, but kept, sneaking away all the little things because she thought that finding Axis was the most important thing, the same way that Cyril thought finding Cassian was, right? Yeah. So like this idea that singular focus on, it's kind of like she couldn't see the forest for the trees, right? And that is, and then at the end of the day, that leads to that they're so good when she confronts him. Dimithri, I was at your house, we watched it. We had a little watch party, and like when she pulled out the Star Path unit, and it was like, oh no, this is so like she's such. I think in my notes, what I wrote is she's such a fucking drama queen, right?
She was caught up in her own hubris, and
everyone in the Empire is a diva this season.
Just monologuing, but it's like
because it's about
so
glory,
good.
It's about ego, right? Yeah. And I think what's very interesting, something I want to tie it into, that I definitely want to tie it into, and we'll get to it at the end of this episode, the final scene of episode 12. We'll get to that. I really want to hold that off. But I think that by showing Clea and Luthen and everything, you're showing what you're fighting for. If you didn't show Luthen and Clea's relationship, they're almost just part of the plot. They're just there to exchange information, and that's it. What are they fighting for? What's their what's the word? Agency, Like, why are they making the choices that they're making? And you're creating fleshed out characters. Otherwise, they're just a means to an end of getting Andor to where he needs to be, which Star Wars at its worst is that. It's A to B to C to D. Let's do a fetch quest and like go from step to step.
But I think we're missing like a key part of their dynamic that warrants a bit of fleshing out, because you can chalk up everything else to like, oh, she's just naturally intelligent and intuitive. She knows how to move things around and is working in teamwork. But the way she talks to him is rather on an intimate level, like little quips here and there. She like calls him out, like fixes his shirt. Like these are very intimate, small moments that you only have with people that you know on some level that isn't just surface, that isn't just collaborative on like on those. And you see that throughout like both seasons. She like even Mon Mothma tells him, I am afraid of you the most, because he has shown Mon Mothma like the most horrifying side of him. He can just like give her to people if they are done serving his purpose. So if Mon Mothma is scared of him, but not Clea, she's like quipping with him. She's being a little, snarky. So like you don't have that expectation from other characters. Nobody's doing that except for her. It makes you wonder, where's this coming from? This sort of like this dynamic. Where's this born out of? These are not just two people that want to kill beat the Empire. They have something. And then you have that flashback, which, and again with Clea, and I like how you put that, like in the actress, how the way she put that, like she's supposed to hate Luthen. He is responsible for what happened to her people, but she's also a survivor. You could tell, like the way she hid, the way she's still hidden, she wants to survive this, and Luthen is also means to do that as well. So more so than just like them kind of like finding kinship and some sort of like relationship throughout their time together. It's like there's also like that selfish, not even selfish, that's the wrong word, but also that self-surviving instinct. Yeah. So, and Luthen proved more than capable of helping her way through space.
And the idea of giving her agency with it too,
that too. It's a big one.
Because we get Cassian, and I know a big critique of I love Marva to death, but a big critique has been like, Marva did steal that kid like from his home, and it's like, yeah, from a certain point of view, right? But the idea that he saves her, right? But she only needs saving because they went there and killed her entire family, right? But that very first thing when she's like, oh, am I your daughter now? And he says, when it's useful, and she just goes, I have to think about that, right? She right away is like, if I said no, like I'm gone. And then when they're on Naboo and he gives her the detonator, he's like, I need.
So that was Naboo, right?
Yeah.
It turns out,
yeah.
You put it out,
that
right,
bridge
Sarah?
was where that Padme's funeral procession was on that bridge, or am I losing my mind?
Allegedly, I haven't checked, but yeah, it is a location that they shot the Phantom Menace on that was cut from the final film. So George Lucas was there back in the day filming. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I screamed Naboo, but I was not sure. So that's very cool, actually, that they were there.
Yeah, and like telling her, like, I need you to choose this, right? I need you to understand what you're essentially getting yourself into, right? Because we saw her, have that amazing conversation with him where she's like, we have to start fighting back. And then he gives the, classic Luthen speech, right? Like, all that you have is your hate, right? All that you have is your hate. You need to store that. You need to save it up. And then when we know what to do with it, we'll do something with it, right? And that idea that he's teaching her along the way, and then on Naboo, that's when like, okay, I need you to choose it, right? And she looks around at all the other kids with their families living normal lives, and she goes to push the detonator. But then when he's like, well, I'm not going to make you do, right? He needs to know that she's going to push it before he lets her not push it, right? So that idea that they do have this personal relationship, but that she had the agency. And again, she's young, so but that's Cassian says, I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old, right? A kid at that age, as someone who has an 8-year-old, right? they are capable of making decisions.
And it's
right?
a recurring theme in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Padme was a senator or a queen at what, 13, 14. So you see that even like young Anakin put in these like responsible positions as like a 9-year-old. Like it's a recurring theme of
it's forced
employing young people, young kids into fight against the Empire.
But then there's also Luthen, who's been is kind of like warning against relationships. He's doing a very Jedi, don't have attachments. Like it's not sentimental. Like living with his daughter this whole time, right? Like his closest ally is his literal adopted daughter. Meanwhile, he's like, no, I'm objective, right? So it humanized Luthen in a really nice way, as well.
We see that scene that I think hit so close to home is the execution. There was a child in there, at least one child that they focus on, right? And it hits so topically, just everything, and so. That's the thing that like Luthen doesn't want to get involved in, right? And then, but he does. What does he say? You're on your own, and he leaves, right? As Clea stays to watch it, because again, I think the difference between the Rebels and the Empire is like the Empire, they're fighting for themselves, right? Like they are their own ego. They're the dramatic part. They're about the theatrics and the glory and the order that comes, that kind of breeds that. And then the Rebels, it's about their connections, whether they're adopted or blood. They can connect with robots, right? Like that's something that is very important in Star Wars, is robots are people too. It's only sometimes touched on, but it is a clear distinction of bad versus good in Star Wars, is how do you treat your droid?
To go back, because you brought up the public execution that Clea witnesses as a young child, when she makes the eye contact with with another young person, like telling her, like, we are forced to grow up in this kind of environment, which is sort of like why she's in the fight that she is. Yeah. But it's a test. It's also a learning moment right there, because two of them are two flesh and blood people without weapons. What are you going to do? Jump in front of the stormtroopers and do what exactly? And that's what Luthen is teaching her in that moment, because we have to fight on a larger scale. Like these smaller conflicts, we're going to die here if you get involved. We have to fight them like in the background when they're not watching. So, and she's still young. She can't reconcile the small scale versus the large scale, what that actually means. And obviously, knowing what we know now, like obviously he taught her quite well.
Yeah, and then continuing that lesson on Naboo of like, don't look at them, look at me. It's going to explode. Then you can look. Like, don't look at the explosion before the explosion happens, because then it's going to look like you knew the explosion was going to happen, right? Like, he's doing this, like, look at me thing where it's like, on first watch, it's like, oh, he wants you to pay attention, look at him. But it's like, oh, no, he's teaching you when you can look at the explosion and when you can't. But I think quietly one of the best lines from that episode is when they're explaining what's going on with the public execution, and the shopkeeper, the antique buyer, says, they keep finding people who did it. Right? Like he got shot by a sniper. They keep finding people who did it. Right? Like only one person did it, but we're going to keep executing people. And those things, and it's so like the hubris of the Empire of like, you guys realize that these things that you're doing are what's going to make the rebellion happen. Like every time you publicly execute 5 more people that did it, like a rebel is born, right? Like the fact that they don't think that like, chicken is going to come home to roost.
That need for control is so unnatural.
Nemec's Manifesto, God. We got to work through these 3 episodes. Again, we could do 2 hours talking about episode 10 alone.
Yeah,
it's my favorite. So
which is what we would have done if these episodes aired once a week, like season 1 did. With season 1, we did an after show on it, and we had one podcast episode for every drop. There was so much to talk about every single time. And in this, it's like, we do the best we can. As Clea sneaks in the hospital, she shoots all the people. I thought super badass. Definitely Jason Bourne moment, because Tony Gilroy, right, was the writer of Jason Bourne.
He did one of them. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
At least one? Or
that sounds familiar,
yeah. So that's, I think, where he got big, was like the Bourne stuff, I think, is Tony Gilroy started. Anyway, the point being is not started, but whatever. And the point being is like she does everything to perfection. I don't know if there's anything more to talk about with that other than I felt really bad for that old lady, the granny
your favorite character.
Yeah.
I felt so
Talk
sad.
about perfectly comedic timing to break some tension of that scene.
Yeah.
Like that's how you do it.
I felt so sad. But as we move into episode 11, how does episode 11 kick off? Is it Clea?
Episode 11 starts with an incredibly long shot of a dead stormtrooper. So we pick up at the hospital, at the aftermath of the hospital. Hirt is automatically blaming Dedra for everything. In my notes, I wrote, "I love this sassy little bitch." He's so good in this episode. Dedra and Krennic have their showdown. Delicious.
Oh, we didn't even get into the part where Dedra gets arrested by Hirt.
Yeah,
like in episode 10. So much happened in episode 10.
She waited for his day off. Like what an asshole. So we do the interrogation. They get the call. Will gets the call from Clea.
Yeah.
We get Cass, Melshi, and K2 playing cards and getting drunk.
Boys.
We've got a lot happens in this episode. ISB puts out the info on Clea.
It's a disease.
They go, it's a disease. Here it comes to visit Dedra.
Oh, the disease thing is making me, oh my God.
Yeah. We get a couple great comedic moments in this episode with the security guard and then the ISB lady who's like geeking out about their radio setup. And the other ISB guy has to go like,
you're right. She was laughing.
Don't get too.
Yeah. And then we get Cassian and Clea, and then this episode ends with like, that's it. Like they still end the episode trying to convince Clea to go to Yavin.
Yeah.
Which is wild to me. Like so much happens in this episode, and they still haven't gotten Clea off Coruscant.
This isn't when K2
he starts
cleans?
storming. He starts.
You go, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
going,
right. That's
he goes
right. That's
demon mode in the
Yeah,
next
but he's
episode.
not in
That's
yet
right.
until episode 12.
12. That's right. That's right.
They're still trying to talk her into going to Yavin.
A big question about that. Let's talk about this because this kind of confused me as I was watching it. Not that I can't understand where she's coming from, but I need some illumination. She doesn't want to leave Coruscant. She wants to. Does she essentially want to die? She wants to die on Coruscant instead of leaving for Yavin. She's not going to let herself get captured.
Well, I mean, she was kind of like, nurtured and breastfed on Luthen's idea of not seeing the sunrise, right? So for her, the full stop was she's dying. She's not making it out. She's not seeing it. So she's like, why would I want to go? Why would I be going off to these people who don't like me, who don't like Luthen, who don't like what I've been doing? That's just not the reality that I've bought into this whole time. So for her, I guess it's such a foreign notion of like, I don't get the ending. This was always the mission, this was always the goal. So I guess there was a weird like kind of reconcile there because then it plays into the ending of her arc in episode 12 where she can kind of see the ending. She kind of gets her sunrise, or like at least the start of it, the cusp of that crescendo kind of like, getting to its peak. At least that's how I read it, but it was very weird because I'd be like, damn, bro, Coruscant is not it. Coruscant is gray and ugly and disgusting. I would not want to be on there.
No, hell
It is
no.
a brutalist nightmare. Like the architecture, whack. The people there, whack.
Whack.
The Empire, you literally have like the Gestapo head office 2 blocks down from your apartment complex, and you want to get off Coruscant. It's not worth it.
I the way I understood it, same as you, like that was end of the road. She was just messaging Yavin and like anybody that can hear, like Cassian, so she can tell them about
Plans,
Galen Urso, the Death Star plans and all of that. So that was the end point. So, and again, why would she? I get why I wouldn't want to go to Yavin either. There's just like, why would I go from one danger into another potential danger?
Yeah.
So,
You got all these
You're
crabby
with
senators.
people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
You're with people, but that's not a plus to her, right? Meeting new people, not a plus to her. She doesn't need to make new connections like she did with Luthen.
No.
Luthen was the only real connection she ever made.
But even throughout the show, like you could tell, like her personality is not very like, hey, let's go have coffee. It's
she holds Vel at like arm's length.
Totally.
Even though in that gala scene there was chemistry of some sort. Have they hooked up in the past? Have they yet to hook up? I don't know.
Yes and yes. I also think I ship it so hard. The whole thing she says in episode 12 that Luthen told her to know your way out before you go in. She doesn't have a way out of Yavin, right? So this idea that for Kleya to be like, we're going to Yavin. Okay, what are we doing after that? And what are we doing after? What are the next steps? It's like she's on a tram line and she's run out of track. Like this is the end of the track that she's laid, right? So you're asking her to jump. You're asking her to,
get off the train,
walking, right? Get off your bike, start walking. That was a weird metaphor, but like, yeah, you have to get off the train and walk from here. And she's like, I don't know where I'm going, right? So there is a part of me and there was a part of me that was like, why doesn't Cassian believe her? Because he starts off with like, are you sure? Like he is doubting her a little bit when she's talking about, everything being connected. And I think part of it comes from like a viewer thing where it's like, I know that it's true. So I'm like, Cassian, why don't you believe her? And it's like, well, I know it's true, right? I'm biased. And it's the same thing with getting so frustrated on Kleya being like, why don't you want to go to Yavin? Part of it is because I know there's so many Imperial troopers out there that are like, they're finding your location, Kleya. Like we gotta go, right? So the fact that they're spending almost the entire episode, right, trying to convince her to go to Yavin when we know the clock is ticking, the troopers are coming, right, is like such a frustrating thing to watch because you're like, it'll be fine, go to Yavin, but like putting yourself in Kleya's shoes, it kind of makes sense,
especially
Cassian quit. Cassian quit on them.
He did,
right? Cassian picked Yavin, and now he's like, okay, come with us. And she's like, I made my choice the way you made your choice, and my choice was to be here.
But it is like you just brought it up. It's so frustrating watching everybody have these doubts about Empire making this weapon. Like they can't like wrap their head around it. I'm like, they literally just massacred a whole planet for something. It's not. But again, we are coming from very biased, like you said, biased perspective. We know that it's true, but it's like, to me, that was probably the most frustrating part. It's like, why don't you believe? Like literally in a week, you're going to destroy it by some farmer on a random desert, godforsaken planet.
Well, before they do, they blow up
time
Alderaan,
goes quickly,
right? Yeah. Like they manage.
Oh God, you're right.
They go down swinging.
That's the biggest.
Our reaction to the go down swinging line live was so funny. All three of us that were there on the couch watching it, and he was like, "I want to go out swinging," and we were like,
I guess.
Don't know.
Does he know?
I'd like to believe that Bale is just on a normal day on a swing in Alderaan.
Good. He's like, this is nice.
As it blows up, that's the only way he goes down swinging. Or
I was like,
playing baseball, maybe space baseball.
Yes,
like,
he couldn't have brought some fucking shampoo and combs to Yavin.
Truly.
I have to watch Mon Mothma with her stupid ass haircut. Can I curse? I'm sorry.
So
yeah, you can say whatever.
Sorry.
The whole I was listening to the Ringerverse, the House of R, talk about the episode, and they were like, they spent like 15 minutes being like, it does raise an interesting question on if there's space baseball, how would they have the phrase go out swinging, right?
Oh, I thought swinging a fist.
No, it's like, so you can get, this is the exact conversation they had. You can hit strike 3 watching the strike go by, or you can attempt to swing at it. So like, it's always better to go out swinging because you were trying to hit the ball than to just watch the pitch go by and have it called.
I'm not American. Baseball is such a foreign concept to me. So
I'm not American.
You're swinging. I
like
think
going
literally
out.
this.
Yeah, going out swinging is like you made an attempt to hit the ball, but like just watching the pitch go by is like a much more embarrassing.
If you're gonna go down, you might as. I didn't know it was a baseball reference. Neither did I. I always took that phrase as if you're gonna go down, you're gonna go down fighting.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Maybe I'm just too baseball centric. We're a baseball family, so maybe hold on.
That's
maybe
you're probably correct. You're probably correct.
Yeah.
I'm so
I mean, there's
American.
that thing where like what I forget what it is. Some smarter person than me will remember. But in Star Wars, they have both said wild goose chase and wild bantha chase. So it
Mm.
begs the question, like, are there geese? Or is bantha the predominant phrase? Like there's all these different little like quirks and things. It's
I'm
Oh,
sure
awesome.
different-
I'm never
I'm sure
gonna use
different
the goose
planets.
again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, in my regular conversation, work with my
Wild
boss.
bantha chase.
Wild
Wild
bantha
bantha
chase.
What's that stupid one from the Book of Boba Fett? It's like, if it isn't the quacks are calling the stifling slimy, just like stupid stuff like that. I lost it.
Lazy. But I would assume every different planet has different,
Yeah.
regional sayings and whatnot.
And species, and
Yeah.
nobody will correct you anymore about tucas
Have
and
you-
lot cats, whatever.
Hey, listen. I'm the facts guy for a reason.
Listen.
It is a tuca cat. That's a
It's a
tuca
Tuca
cat.
cat. It's
You're
a Tuca
telling
cat, and
me,
then-
the
yeah.
owner of three monsters,
Yeah.
his lot cat makes an appearance in
Have you heard the
It's-
one
Every loft cat is a Tuca cat, but not every Tuca cat is a loft cat, right?
Yeah.
The same way a tiger is a cat and a house cat is a cat
You tell them that.
or a feline. Yeah,
Yeah.
mine are tigers. Yeah, One staring here.
lions? Yeah.
So the episode does start with, I mean, let's talk about Dedra in. She's been arrested by here in the previous episode, in episode 10. And in episode 11, she's in interrogation
With Krennic, yeah.
with
And
Krennic.
turns off the body cam for the interrogation.
Oh, does he?
He walks in and turns off the security camera.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and that's when you know it's going to be
Krennic
good.
moment.
But
I
really, it's
didn't
because
catch
he's
that.
going to
Thank
talk
you.
about the Death Star, right? That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
why he does
Yeah.
it. Not because he's going to like,
Have a diva off
Grab
with
her,
Dedra.
grab her by the face.
Well, there's that too, right? But I don't think the Empire cares. I don't know whether the security cameras are about over interrogating.
Vader
But-
would never. Vader would never stand.
Vader would
for
never.
enhanced interrogation techniques.
Vader, I'm sure,
Except
does
for when he
his
chokes
own
that
taxes.
guy. Force chokes that guy.
I'm sure Vader does his own taxes and turns it in on time.
He has his own
Yes.
his own HR department that does training on sexual harassment. So
Yes.
everything is
Yeah.
possible.
Vader's recycling policies have been really good for the Death Star. Everyone recycles, everyone sorts out their blue milk cartons and their trays and their bantha
Yeah.
burgers.
Woke Vader HR department.
Yeah.
Cheers to
He's
that.
gone.
Vader's like, remember, no means no.
Yeah.
No touching, no touching your underlings.
Is this an example of quid pro
It was
quo?
spam my coffee.
It's like, I
No,
don't think Vader cares or can see the full extent of the shadows of every little corner and nook and cranny of this cesspool that is the Empire. So,
Oh, wait, I gotta do it. I'm sorry. No means
No.
no.
Yeah. George Lucas approved.
EU Legends Lucas verse Fambro approved.
100%.
It
It is very. Ooh. Oh,
No,
okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's very funny. Not funny, of course. You know what I mean. But it is interesting. Um, the way these final batch of episodes kind of plays out with Dedra's character. The way Denise described, season one, where it's like you see a woman in like a male environment and she's rising up because you're like, oh, the woman's, she's gonna get one over the men, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, she's a Nazi. She's actually like a fucking terrible person.
Yeah.
Then in season two, it's kind of like she's going full out on it. But the second she's in a position of vulnerability or she's in a position of failure, she is immediately not an equal anymore. She's immediately not equal to everyone in the room at a literal level, but also at like a textual and thematic level. And that's when that kind of very, very deliberate, like gender-based violence starts to come in towards her. Everyone gets very handsy when they approach her. And I thought that was a very like haunting thing. Even Krennic here is sassy diva character, but even him like grabbing her, like infantilizing her, like grabbing her cheek and like
And shoulders again, like Cyril did in
Yes.
a
Yeah.
couple episodes ago.
very, very scary, very uncomfortable, and very, very brilliant that you make me feel for a character who quite literally did genocide on space France. That you make me like, oh, it's Under your skin. Really brilliant writing, but under your skin.
Gestapo, not Gestapo girl boss is not exempt from gender-based violence.
Yeah.
And it's really frightening. I think both instances, because even with the conflicts with other Imperials in the ISB, nobody's putting their hands on each other, but they are putting their hands on her. That's very, I think it's very deliberate.
Very deliberate, very the point.
Krennic and her, I mean, he's just Ben Mendelsohn just chewing the scenery and like just going for it. But the opening, he says, "Who else knows?" She says, "About what?" And he says, "Is the urgency of the situation not palpable?" And I'm like, that is such, it's like such a, like, what an opener is, I think, what I wrote. And then I just wrote perfection. I have yowza in here. I have what? Like, I have a lot of like,
you emoted in your notebook.
I emoted in my notes. Yeah. Yowza. Yeah. I put the face grab, yowza. The way he puts his hands on her, but then also it's so interesting because it would have been so easy to be like, everyone is throwing, like, the move is throw Dedra under the bus, right?
Yeah.
That's Heart's move.
Yeah.
It's their security package. She messed it up. This is, but the idea, he stole your code cert, right? So that's not technically her fault. However, what is her fault is she had all these files she was not supposed to have, and she looked at them, and she has knowledge she's not supposed to have. She's not supposed to know about Galen Erso. She's not going to be supposed to know about all this stuff. So it is her fault. People are not throwing her under the bus undeservedly. And that was so delicious when it happened. And then he's like, "Who told you about Galen Erso?" She starts to freak out. She's like, "I had to be a scavenger. No one was telling me anything, so I had to look for it myself." It's like, you did this to yourself. This is your fault. You opened, they got on your desk by mistake, but like, I moved into this house 3 years ago, and sometimes I still get my old tenant's mail, and I don't open it and read it and file it away in my files, right? Like, that's not what you do, Dedra. So like, this whole thing that it starts off as, oh, she's the scapegoat. And it's like, yeah, but
not really.
If she wouldn't have had those files, he wouldn't have found them in her thing when he stole it, right? So the fact that he's like, "Why did you give him your code cert?" And she's so like offended. Like, if he has it, he stole it. And it's like, that's not that, like, change your password every 3 months, right?
Yeah.
He's had her code cert for a year. And she never changed her, like, I don't know how passwords work, but like, I have to change mine for my payroll company every 6 months.
Delusions of self-grandeur, as you can always tell. In Luton's shop, it's evident where her mindset is.
It's also interesting though, because that's the exact same thing she gets rewarded for doing in season 1. It was like, where would we be if everyone played as loose with the rules as Miss Mira or whatever? So she's like, oh, well, that's what I got to do. I got to bend the rules and do things. And the second it's not convenient for the grander scheme of their empire, it's like, actually, no, doesn't apply anymore.
That's a good
I also
point.
thought there was an insinuation, especially if Krennic knew about Cyril and Dedra. It's like, you and Lonnie too? Like, I thought there was, he says, did you give your
your fringy friend is what she says.
Fringy friend.
But he asked, like, how did he get your password or whatever? Did you give it to him, right?
Yeah.
And
she's like disgusted.
She's disgusted. I read it as an insinuation. Not only did she give the password, why would she have given the password? I don't know. Maybe I read too much into it. But like, if this woman is in power, is she not sleeping with more than one guy?
Dimithri, you've made a lot of horny connections today. Like, the metaphor.
I'm not sure if
what are the moon cycles?
You're stealing my bit.
What are the moon cycles? Where are we at?
I'm trying to, and I'm not saying she did have a relationship with Lonnie. That's not. But what I am trying to say is that I'm trying to draw parallels between women in power in Star Wars versus women in power in real life, which is the idea that you can only get so far by doing so many things, right? And the fact that you get to be part of the boys' club until you're not, and then you get to be shown where your true place is, Like, how dare you step up to me, your equal? It's like, well, And then it's something that I've also brought up in previous episodes is that the Empire is built on, like, the episode 1 line where there's always a bigger fish, right? So Cyril
Yeah.
to Dedra, Dedra to Partagaz, Partagaz to Krennic, Krennic to Tarkin, Tarkin to Vader, Vader to the Emperor. And everybody below you is expendable. Right? And it's a House of Cards situation. And the rebellion, as I've also brought on previous episodes, is a web of different moving parts that work together as a whole. And so technically the rebellion can lose battles and not fall apart as easily. Maybe. Who knows? But the point being is you can't just cut people loose as easily
Luthen
as
would disagree.
Empire.
Yeah. Luthen
Yeah.
would shoot Lonnie Young in the chest in broad daylight.
Poor Lonnie.
Daylight.
Poor Lonnie.
Yeah.
And a loth cat sniffs him. I'm just
Yeah.
Yeah. I also
Actually,
think actually there's a good parallel between the Empire and the Rebellion too, when later Hirt comes to visit her and ask for advice, and she says, you know, Lonnie was your friend. He said he was not my friend, like, and she says, I know the feeling. So this idea that like there's no friends in the Empire.
No.
But what is the catchphrase for Luthen to let you know that you're part of the rebellion is I have friends
I have
everywhere.
friends
And
everywhere.
what does
Oh.
Vel say to Clea at the end? You know where you are, you're among friends, right? This idea that it's the relationships that make the rebellion what it
Yeah.
is, right?
Mhm.
If Han doesn't have a relationship with Luke, he does not come back and allow him to blow up the Death Star, right? He doesn't
Yeah.
come back and back him up if he takes the money, if they ran themselves like the Empire, right? It's the relationships that you forge that make the rebellion possible. And it's the lack of relationships that form in the Empire bureaucracy that make it destined to fail.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is also interesting because didn't Dedra took Hurt under her wing a little bit in season one. Like he was kind of like ass kissing and brown nosing to try like get up the ladder. And the second he's up the ladder, is like, you're not my friend anymore.
Yeah.
You're not. You
Yeah,
have
cut the
you have
rope
friends
behind
nowhere.
you.
Your
Yeah.
friends
Yeah.
nowhere.
You have friends nowhere. Evil Luthen Rail will be like, you have friends nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Krennic says, if you're not a rebel spy, you missed your calling.
Yep.
Which I
Best
thought
line of
was-
the episode. Best
Dave
line
was
of
the
the
best
episode.
line of episode.
Grabs her face, shoves her down. Yeah, the
What
finger
was
on the
this
head.
thing? I'm still
He
trying to-
improv that. He improv that
What
apparently.
is it?
That's
It's
great.
just shut up. I have one finger. One finger is all it takes to shut you up. Is that kind of the?
It's trolling.
I don't have to use my
Yeah.
whole hand. I don't have to choke you. I don't have to. This is your off button. You listen to me.
I don't know because I just keep seeing that clip with the like Beyonce, like that Material Girl, like edit music and all the diva music. There's no like
There's
way
no
I
rhyme
can
or
read it.
reason.
There's
It's
no
just
rhyme or reason. He's
no.
just
Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you're not supposed to know
And that's
why
something
he was
only
doing that.
like next time you're talking to someone, imagine what it would take to walk behind them and put your finger on their head like that. Like that is only a Krennic thing. But then
Did
also
you-
it adds such a beautiful dimension to the Tarkin Krennic stuff in Rogue
Yeah.
One.
Because you know what's
With-
coming
with
too. Yeah.
And with Tarkin being like, all of the misadventures that this Death Star has had, and you don't get told that in Rogue One. You just assume, they had delays or whatever. And it's like, oh no, it's that you had the files, you let an ISB plant get the files and give them to the rebellion, which has led to them finding Galen or so. Like it's the whole, like it is all,
yeah.
it's all the
I've-
ISB.
I've-
No wonder the ISB, death march.
I've always thought of Tarkin as not Tarkin, I've always thought of Krennic as a really evil peacock. He's always showing off. He's always trying to be very, like flamboyant and showy. There's a line in the Thrawn Treason book where in that book Krennic has like a little aide, like a little helper, and there's a specific part of the book that is very deliberate in mentioning that Krennic ensures that his cape is larger than his understudy's cape because like he's got to be the big guy in the room every single time. And then going from Andor and watching Rogue One immediately afterwards, and you see Tarkin like throwing Krennic around and verbally harassing him. He's just a little kid, man. Krennic is such a little small man syndrome kind of guy. But whenever he has that power, he turns into that evil peacock. He just relishes in it. He's like, yep, boop, boop.
Yeah.
Like he's showy, he's flowy. Like what does he say to that other guy in the ISB room? And he's like, well, what are you waiting here for? Like go spread the news. Like he's like, come on. Whenever he has that power, he really relishes in it, which is both comedic but also like horrifying. It's like, yeah, this is what happens. This is where people go when they get that like giggle juice that just gets them going. that
Yeah.
will like kick.
But you're
down.
standing in the midst of his achievement. Come on.
Right, achievement.
Valid crash out. Valid crash out. I would be
crash out.
very too.
Yeah.
Me too.
I do have to add that Vader does put his hands on people, including Krennic. Just not
He would
physically.
never do that. He would never do that. What do
He
you
does
mean?
it this
would
way.
never- He would never do that.
You know?
Vader's not that kind of guy.
All of these people.
My
The
Vader.
HR training does not allow for that.
They don't know. Not my Vader. Not my Vader.
Yeah.
Shut
So as we finish up episode 11, obviously, Cassian, Melshi, and by the way, Wilman, who I'm very surprised is alive until this point. You know?
Yeah.
And we don't know whether Clea is going to live through this ordeal. Like that, I think was the biggest. We know Cassian, we know Melshi, we know K2. They're gonna go on to Rogue One. We don't know anything about Clea.
They got
which
one
is-
more day in them.
Yeah, the strength of it's sad.
Yeah. Literally one more day.
The strength of Andor is also
Why are
the
we
fact
laughing?
that like these are all characters we don't know their end point, right? But yeah, and then they tell K2 to stay in the ship as they go to grab Clea and to leave. If Clea said okay right when they grabbed her, they would have gotten out before the Imperials got in, right?
I think so.
Like there was
Maybe.
a lot of time trying to
Maybe.
convince her.
Honestly, they probably would have got like sniped the second they walked out because they're all kind of landing
Yeah.
together, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because the ISB lady is geeking out about how good the signal is, and she says like I can't trace anything unless the signals are being sent, and then that's when Cassian, they're like flying through Coruscant, and that's when he sends the little
Signal, yeah.
he sends it back, and then it starts beeping.
But remember, they go to the wrong spot.
Well, they're at the right, but if they would have exited through the front of the building, and the Empire would have been landing at the front of the building.
Or, yeah,
Or
or
they're in
the
the
time
wrong
that
apartment.
they entered, then they exit. Anyway, the point being is, does Clea waiting, elongating the time help them in the scheme
Yeah, I
of
reckon.
things?
Yeah.
I
it
obviously
hurt?
did. They got off.
Yeah, they're out.
I mean,
Yeah,
the plot said yes.
K2 got them out of it. So, I
Yeah.
mean, let's kick off episode 12. K2
Hold
storms the
on.
build- Oh, what?
I have to talk first
Okay.
about the scene with Partagast and.
Oh.
and
Is that in
Krennic.
11?
That's in 11 when he says, "I can't protect you, Leo."
Oh, that one, yeah.
Leo spelled Lio, so you know it's Star Wars. Because
Tim with two M's. Yeah.
Which is my favorite character. My daughter's favorite anime character's name is Leo. But that how much that one line is like, oh, they know each other so well. Like they're calling each other by their first name. He's like, I can't protect you this time. Like, and then he says, well, good luck to both of us, right? This idea that they're kind of resigning themselves to what's going to happen. I want the prequel of them in like
I'm talking
Empire
Krennic and Leo.
College.
Right? Krennic and
Yeah.
Partagast.
Yeah.
Krennic and Partagast.
Do they hate each other or like each other? I can't tell.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But of both.
I think it's both. Yeah.
It's both.
Do you
I think they both understand in the same way that, like, I mean, we'll get to it in like episode 12, but the same way, like, what's the dude's name? Legret, Legit, or whatever. The other
Legret. Yeah.
Legret, in the same way that he kind of like, says to Partagast, he's kind of like, is like, yeah, I've been in a stuff up before. Like, he stuffed up the whole Mon Mothma Senate thing, so he knows what it's like to be on the receiving end of like
Yeah.
a major screw up. So he's like, I get it, I
Is that
get
the
it,
guy
buddy. Like,
who has the last scene with Partagast?
Yeah.
yeah, and he
Yeah.
does. the,
Also,
like,
episode 11, fun fact, is the shortest episode of the season.
whoa,
It is 37 minutes, and that's including the previously on and the intro.
wow, that's like the length of 2 Ahsoka episodes. It's crazy. That's insane.
That's because Ahsoka, a lot of it is
Sorry.
long pauses.
No, it's
the edits of Ahsoka are so like the editing in Ahsoka is a lot of just long pauses while they talk slowly.
It's a PowerPoint presentation.
like this.
Like,
Sorry,
Um,
that came out of me. The intrusive
yeah.
thoughts. Sorry, they come out.
well, I mean, I definitely after we talk about these episodes, I want to talk about just like Star Wars, and where it's going
Fantastic.
forward and whatever. But
The moving forward.
yeah, I think first thing I also think it's interesting that Daedra gave Hirt information, which
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
she's still a company woman,
Yeah,
right? Like
as well.
even in interrogation, maybe that will help. I don't know. We get to episode 12, final episode. What can happen? Anything goes. K2 storms the building, right?
Yeah, he goes
Yep.
beast mode. It was awesome. It
Literally.
was scary because he's still
Frightening.
physically got that power to him, which is it's really messed. It's really funny how in Book of Boba Fett when they go to Mandalore, they will have guns because obviously it's a Terminator reference, and then here they're like, you know what? I'm just gonna like hit people really hard. He's like, I'm just gonna start swinging, going down, swinging. He was throwing hands. It was crazy to see like him using hurt as like a body shield. I was like,
Literally a meat puppet.
ooh,
Yep.
ooh, crazy. I
Frightening.
love it. Love it.
Frightening.
You see his face. Like,
He's like,
so I was, at first glance, I was like, oh, Hirt isn't dead until the guy shoots him, but is Hirt...
No, he's
cooked.
His
he's
neck is
ragdolled.
down.
Yeah, he's got him by the neck. Yeah.
He's cooked. Yeah.
That bitch is dead.
Is that
See,
the
okay.
most horrifying thing I've seen? Like, in Star
Well,
just a dead body. Just
Andor is the first show that we've seen people get shot in the head, not helmet, head, and
Yeah.
necks breaking visibly, like
Yeah.
like spines or necks, and due to K2's, which was a horror show with Gorman Massacre
Yeah.
already being as horrific as it was, you bring in those murderous fucking Terminators, it became like a whole new level of horror.
Yeah. And they're letting that thing walk around Yavin. There's Gorman survivors on Yavin. Do you think they just look at K2 and they're like,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they didn't even
Oh
mark
my
him.
God.
I mean, I would have marked him with
like a
something.
sticker?
Yeah.
Like a sticker or something?
But then you don't get that moment. You don't get that moment in Rogue One where Jin shoots the one KX
Yeah.
unit.
You knew it was me, right?
That wasn't me. I got very much like, oh yeah, I should have stayed on the ship vibes from K2 in this, because that's exactly what happens in Rogue One. They tell him to stay on the ship and then he comes and saves them.
Man,
Yeah.
stay on the ship
Love
is such a
that.
common theme. Anakin
Yeah.
telling R2 stay on the ship. And, yeah.
Never stay on the ship.
Never
Also,
stay on the ship.
the idea that a droid can break what they're told is also, I think,
Yeah.
that's free will.
Reprogramming,
'Cause
yeah.
he doesn't have a restraining bolt on him or anything. He's
No,
just like,
Got free will.
But like,
I love Melshi running out and then seeing them and then we're like, don't move, and then he runs back in. It's very important to remember, I think, that they are canonically still a little bit drunk in this. So
Oh my God. Oh
Yeah.
my
Melshi,
God, you're
that
right.
was just like, oh, just like runs back in.
he doesn't even look
right.
around the corner. He
No,
just
he just walks right out.
just walks right out.
Like
Awesome.
once the comms are off, you should be a little bit more careful. Like that's clearly a sign, but they
Yeah.
both do it. They go in and they're trying to tell here, like, hey, the comms are down, and he's like, keep going anyway, and it's like, big
all
deal.
right.
I pointed
Yeah.
this out when I was watching it, that Hirt storming that building is very, like, to me, harkens back to the first arc of season 1, where Cyril is storming Ferrix.
Hmm.
Is it supposed to mirror that? Is there a...
I think it's interesting to see like people in command actually on the front lines, and you see how incompetent they are outside of the intelligence room. Bert has no idea what he's doing. He's a fool. It's not a situation that he had any command or control over. Even the ISB agents had more authority over him. And you're like the dude with the sick ass like walrus mustache, like he knew what he was
Love him.
doing. He was awesome. He like locked in.
Yeah.
But he was taking orders from like this scrawny, wimpy intelligence agent who
Yeah.
really like it's like I work retail, right? So you know I'm ratting out the dirty secrets, but it's like people in management don't know what happens on the shop floor, and then they
Yeah.
pull up and they expect to be able to know how to steer the ship, and you're like, you don't have a clue what you're doing. So
You were in a cabin
Yeah.
the whole time. You don't know this.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, Cyril's Ferric situation was a huge foobar because he didn't know what was going on. Herd's
Mhm.
situation here on Coruscant was a mess up. He didn't know what was going on. So there's definitely a parallel there of like when compared to people who actually go on the ground level and do these things versus people who just like spit ideas and draw lines on maps. And it's the same thing that would parallel with like the senators and the rebel leaders who are like sitting around like, well, this sounds pretty intense, guys. I don't know if we should trust this. And Cassian's like, you weren't there. You weren't there in the thick of the mess, you know? It's very much about those who do versus those who say they do, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be too harsh on upper management. I mean,
Do it.
sure, we
Do
all
it.
we
deserve
all
it.
get mad at upper management for not like knowing what it's like to be boots on the ground with any job. But at the same time, like flip it, and people on the boots on the ground don't know what it's like to manage. There's that thing. I do think that we see flaws in certain characters that think they can do it all, right? It's when people think that like they can do the full vertical of like a whole mission on their own. Go cowboy. Cyril, Dedra, right? Like Cassian pulls that shit all the time, and they keep trying to be like, you gotta stay in your lane. You gotta be one step in the plan. We have other people. We have Luthen to Andor to Clay, right? Like there's a step-by-step process, and it's not just one straight through, it's a web, which I'm trying to get people on my side that is the symbol of this season, is the web, the spider web, the Gorlectopod web. It's a web, and the first season is a brick. That's the symbol of first season. Web is the second season, or symbol of the second season. Feel free to use it if you'd like.
That's definitely one of them. For me, was season 1 is theory, season 2 is praxis. It's manifestos and speeches versus action.
Oh,
like
okay.
Theory versus praxis. That's one of the way I package Andor. If I'm going to sell it to somebody to watch it, it's makings of a revolution and getting like, oh, you know how Death Star blows up? Here's a show that tells you how they get to that point.
I forget where I was going with it.
Somewhere awesome.
Yeah. So K2 storms the building. He Hirt in hand. And they throw that concussion grenade, which
and then everyone stares at it.
Yep.
And then it goes off.
Whoever threw it knew how to bounce it. Who threw it? The walrus guy?
Yeah,
I think it might have been the walrus guy. Yeah.
That guy is very experienced, probably has committed a lot of war crimes, I'm assuming.
Yeah, this is not his first building storming for sure.
Yeah. But it's Hirt's first and last.
Yep.
Absolutely.
R.I.P. here.
Yeah. Hirt was so out of his element that he had to tilt his head to understand what was going on.
Yeah.
And then K2, they get back on the ship, and K2 is trying to kind of like banter a little bit, and Cassian's not having it. And I'm like, is Cassian upset that Luthen's dead? Is Cassian like, what's up with Cassian in that moment? Because like K2 is trying to give him a little classic K2 sass, and he's like, buckle in. Like, I thought it was an interesting moment that he was like not real cheerful.
Yeah.
I would like to say quickly,
not that he ever banters.
Mustache Guy's name is Sergeant Gariel.
Gariel?
Gariel. Sergeant
How do you spell
Gariel.
that?
Are you ready for some Star Wars spelling? This is Garial. Gariel.
Okay.
So it's Gary. His name is Gary.
It's pretty much Gary, yeah.
Yeah.
Gary with some T's and C's in the middle.
Yeah.
Anyone surprised that Clea made it out of Coruscant?
100%.
Yep.
I'm surprised at anyone who's alive at the season finale. Like, I thought they were going to kill everybody.
Yeah. They finally take her back to Yavin 4. By the way, I find these final 3 episodes very interesting in the sense of the whole season and everything. But knowing that it leads to Rogue One, you know that like certain, we're all waiting there. Like, how do we finish off this season in a good way? Cassian takes her. I thought that she would die on Coruscant and Cassian would have to take the information back and there'd be a problem there. But it turns out they take Clea back to Yavin 4 and 2 people saying the same thing, but it was because of her. They don't believe.
Yeah.
Like, what does it take?
Suck so bad.
What'd you say?
Those 2 senators suck so bad. And they sucked in Rogue One, but they sucked even.
Yeah.
100%.
Senator Palmo. And you know what's funny is the one is called Senator Jebel, which is just like a dumb way of saying rebel.
Jebel.
Like, you can tell from the start. Senator Jebel's not the vibe. He's not a...
I heard you say gerbil. I'm like, that makes more sense.
That would be better.
we get the
That would have been better.
They're talking to Saw, and I thought that was a really funny moment where he's like,
You don't know where I'm
"You're
at."
sending spies. You don't know blah blah
Oh,
blah
no.
blah." And she's like, "It's the Empire, Saw. We're not trying to get you." And then they hang up, and they're like, "No, we did send spies." Oh, okay. So Saw is crazy, but also
we know
he's
you're a
not 100%.
Jedi, brother.
Not
You're on
100%
Jeddah.
wrong.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm
You're
not.
on Jeddah. No,
Nuh-uh.
no. You're on Jeddah.
Why does that street sign behind you say Jeddah Street?
Jeddah Street.
Yes.
Jeddah.
They made a reference to like how cats hide behind like curtains and pretending they're not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like canonically, he's
sorry.
been there for a year. Like,
Yeah.
like, dude, you've been there for a year. We know where you are. This is not a secret. You Skyped Mon Mothma like 8 months ago on Yavin when Ezra was there. Like, we know where you are.
It's like I've seen like there's like pictures of people who tweet and they're like, I just got my new Droid phone and it's doing amazing and blah blah blah, and then it's like tweeted from iOS blah blah blah. You know, and it's like
That's right. That's exactly right.
you can see that you're on an iPhone. What are you talking about? So I mean,
King Gaslight.
Sarah, where are we going with this?
So we've got Senator Pamelo Jebel and Radis.
Yeah.
I love Radis.
It's
I
a
love
paranoid
Radis
fantasy.
I took a photo of the screen with Radis. I got so hyped. Look at that. I got so excited. Sorry. I love that guy.
He's
Tate,
super
real
so
quick.
hard.
Tate, how do you feel about the Mon Calamari? I talk about this like I was talking about it with
They're
Sarah was
delicious.
over. I think they're the underrated heroes of the rebellion.
Yeah.
Like Radis and Akbar and like their ships and everything. But are you a Mon Calamari fan?
I'm a fan. I'm a huge Mon Calamari fan. But I am, more importantly, I'm a huge Rogue One background character fan. So anytime I see one of them, like thankfully I was home alone, so I could kind of just let loose and go wild. But when I saw like Pow, and I went animalistic. When they said Antok Merrick, I almost did a somersault in my living room. They said like all they're saying all the right things. So
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I had to.
Oh no,
I love
you're,
Radis.
you're fine.
He's so
also
cool. He's so cool.
we're also Radis fans.
Yes.
All right.
So yeah, they tell him it's a paranoid fantasy. He's being less than objective. Luthen's been a thorn in our side. And he says like Luthen died for this. And for me, there was a moment where I was like, that doesn't necessarily make it true. You know, like just because he died for you want it to be true. And then Cass kind of loses it. He says it's insulting to hear him run down by people who have given a fraction of what he has to this rebellion.
Yeah.
Right. He reminds them
I don't think it's fair, by the way, for him to say that, but okay.
That if it wasn't for Luthen, Mon Mothma would literally be dead in a cell, right?
Yeah,
and Bale says duly noted, and I'm like, dude, you had an ISB spy in your team that you told Mon Mothma you trusted.
Literally.
Fraud, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get Kafrene. We get that Tivik is calling from Kafrene.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot happens. Cass visits Clea and kind of apologizes. Vel and Mon talk. Mon talk, not Mon speak together.
Yeah.
Vel says the amazing line, he should stop saving people about Cassian, which is amazing. Willman and Cass talk, like everybody like gets together.
Finally.
Cassian and Vel are together. They toast everybody.
Yeah.
I cry. Vel straight up is like, is that a real story? And then we get Nemec's manifesto, Partagaz listening to it, final scene with Partagaz, Vel finding Clea, and then Bale and Cassian talk, and then watering his plants, putting on his Rogue One costume, and everybody taking their place. And then
let's talk about the final Partagaz scene. But before I do, JJ, I just noticed that you look like Princess Leia because of your hair. I just noticed that.
Well, I mean, people beg you for a glove shit of Leia in Andor, so here you go.
What if Clea is actually Leia in this?
I've heard that one. I've heard that one.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that my favorite part of this episode is a bunch of bureaucrats, you know, talking shit on people that are doing stuff.
So
for the revolutions.
I want to say that, like, yes, I get that, but I also get that, like, everybody is doing their part. I wouldn't call those people lazy. They just weren't.
Who said lazy?
No, but like
they're not lazy. They just suck.
Andor says like you haven't done a fraction of what Luthen has done, which
because it's true objectively.
True. Yeah, Luthen has given his whole life.
But not even like life. The movements he's made, the weapons he's secured, like the alliance that he's made. I have friends everywhere. He made connections with everybody, but with himself, and he died essentially alone in his shop of antiquities. Technically, when you think about it, that was his death. He didn't get to say goodbye to anybody. I mean,
yeah, he is, because the future of the rebellion, he doesn't get to see it, right? He built it. Yeah, he built the foundation, but
Saw Gerrera has been knocking down Imperial ships that have been like decimating Jeddah for like a year now. Like
slowing down the Kyber transport, I guess.
I mean, objectively, Luthen and Saw have done more than anybody in that room that were talking shit.
Yeah. Okay. Partagas. Final scene.
Leo.
Who's the other guy?
Legret.
Legret.
French for regret?
Sure. Why the hell not? Gorman for regret? Gorman for regret? I don't know.
No regrets.
No regrets.
When we open on Nemik's, when we hear Nemik's manifesto, first of all, like immediate, like just hearing it is like a balm to the soul.
Nemik's manifesto got me hooked on Andor in episode 4 of season 1. That's when I knew it was like it was something special. Sorry, continue, Sarah.
And we open on it happening with Clea, right? It's playing over Clea, kind of looking out at stuff, but then we figure out that it's Partagas listening to it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when he asks Legret if he's heard it before, and he says bits and pieces. It's hard. It just keeps spreading. And then one of my favorite moments is Partagas says, who do you think it, or one of them says, who do you think it is? Like, they don't know who Nemik is. And that idea of, like, I wrote in my notes in giant things, it doesn't matter, right? The rebellion is everyone. It doesn't matter who wrote the manifesto. The manifesto is out there. It is rebellion, right? When Luthen says the rebellion's not here anymore, it's flown away, it's everywhere, right? It doesn't matter. We're never going to know Nemik's name in the, nobody else. Partagas doesn't ever know who Nemik is, but it doesn't matter because the manifesto has spread, the revolution has spread, right? It's over. And that's, I think, ultimately what he realizes. It's done. Like, it's gone. It's out of my hands. I can't stop it. I'm going to kill myself.
There were so many
blaster?
Yeah, there were so many weird interpretations of that scene online. Like, people obviously are going to discourse, which fine, whatever. But like, one of them that I saw was like, oh, look, Partagas in last moment of his life was like, oh, maybe Empire is bad.
No.
What in a blister bleedy fuck are you talking about?
That's like saying that when Hitler killed himself at the end of World War II because he realized that he made a mistake.
Guys, I should have gone back to art school. This was not like...
Yeah.
It's crazy. I'm like, you didn't realize he's headed to his own execution. He's just speeding it up, and maybe.
Because he went downstairs. He would have got the second he went downstairs. It would have been.
And they were cleaning the ISB offices. You see the number of the employees in that room was shrinking by each episode. There was like 3 of them left at the end of the season. So that office is scrapped, and Partagas is down. And the fact that it was his idea, to spread the disease rumor about Clea, to spread the Imperial troops and armies around. They didn't have them readily available to attack Clea's apartment. Like,
that's what
he played over his own game. Like, he got overplayed.
And saying it's a disease, saying Clea is a disease, when what Marva says in her funeral hologram is that the Empire
is a disease.
I just realized Hirt must have gone into that complex so like rogue. Right? Because if he told Partagas that he found Clea, wouldn't that you have taken down the disease thing and brought troops over?
No. Partagas is in the like communications office overseeing it the whole time. Because he's like, we got to send more people.
Okay.
They just are doing a bad job. Because when when they call in more people, she's like, they're off doing other stuff. And he's like, okay, we'll tell them it's priority. Because it's almost like no one's listening to the ISB anymore.
But it's an attempt at propaganda again to mask Empire's true intentions by saying, "Oh, we are actually protecting you from a diseased individual that's going to do all these things to you. We have people on the ground tracking it." So, and he unknowingly, obviously, spread himself too thin. So when the thick of the fight happens, he's got no resources to stop K2 from going beast mode.
I think it's interesting, the symbolism of Nemec's manifesto. The idea that you can know someone's soul, but not their name. You know? Like, those ideas, they spread, right? Even after your death, that Nemec's manifesto spreads because it's an idea. And I tie it in with the idea of legacy. Like, Star Wars is about, like, who you're fighting for, what do you leave behind, that sort of thing. And Nemec, as far as we know, didn't have children, except for this idea, this manifesto, the thing you leave behind.
Oh, thank God!
Makes it worthwhile. Wait, what? What were you? What? What am I missing?
I think JJ thought you were gonna say, what if he does have a child?
No.
It's Luke Skywalker.
No. I have been. I'm sorry. I am desensitized right at this point.
Yeah, Bix and Cassian are Poe Dameron's parents. Didn't you know?
What if Bix changes her name to Sara Bay and Cassian's real birth name was Kez?
What is up with everybody's theories, which is just... Because this has even been in Smallville. I don't want to derail this. Smallville, they introduced Chloe Sullivan, who was like a school reporter. And then people online, like this was years ago, would be like, yeah, Chloe has to go in witness protection, changes her name to Lois Lane. And then comes back as Lois Lane. And then Clark and her start dating. And it's like, no, or she's just a character. Like, all these people, they are characters. They don't need to change their name or dye their hair or suddenly put Clea's hair up into buns and then make her Leia. That's the hero idea that only heroes can be heroes in Star Wars. I don't like that. It's the idea that, like, it's this bloodline that makes you a hero. You are the savior. So all these many things are just one person because they're the instrumental piece.
The Rise of Skywalker.
I was about to say that. Screw you. I was about to say that.
Yeah. You know.
I better not. How
dare you utter that name? How dare you utter the name?
Your podcast is not ready for that.
No.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
For that crash out.
We I need to do an overall Star Wars episode just so we can complain about
buddy.
But okay, we gotta finish this episode off, and then I would like to just talk about, like, our thoughts, on everything going forward. So what else? So Partagaz kills himself. I thought such a strong scene of Legret knowing.
It's the hand. It was perfect.
It's like just chill.
I didn't rewatch it, but supposedly the stormtrooper flinches.
Yeah, they flinch. They run
they
away.
do. With the gun, yeah.
I love that actor so much. He's so good. It's every time he was on screen, I was so happy. I loved him in Game of Thrones. I love him now.
A lot of Game of Thrones alumni is in Andor.
Yeah,
Maester Pycelle is Partagaz. I cannot see it.
I love the Bail when Bail comes to talk to Cassian and K2 says the man you do not like is here. Love it. Love it.
He's not a protocol droid, right? Like, he's not mincing
He's
words
a murder
here.
bot.
Yeah. So why wouldn't he be blunt?
It's awesome.
That's what he says, but he says that in Rogue One. He tends to say whatever comes to his circuits, right?
Yeah.
And even the way they interact with him, like when they were playing cards, and he says he's trying to droid you. Like, what a funny.
Oh, that's right. That's a good
funny
line.
turn of phrase.
Because he's saying it's statistically impossible, or like very close to being impossible.
Yeah, it's unlikely.
Yeah. And I think that's funny.
And Bail says, "May the Force be with you" to Cassian. Which
awesome way to.
nice. Amazing. That's a very Bail thing to say.
And Cassian's last look on somebody was that Force healer lady on the base of Yavin.
And there's a little nod. He gives her a little nod. Yeah. And then it's just the montage of everyone getting ready for Rogue One. I will say, I did not need more Rogue One. Like, ooh, we saw this, and maybe if they had them in one shot, they'd have to pay them. But like, I would have liked like a little like, here's Galen Erso. Maybe it's because I always want to see Mads Mikkelsen. right? Like if we're looking to everyone and we see Krennic on the Death Star, which I think is a clip from Rogue One because he looks more like Rogue One Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah, but they changed the outside thing. I don't think because
they were putting on the thing,
the dish, right?
The dish, yeah.
I would have liked to see either Galen Erso or like maybe we see some people arresting someone that we know to be Jyn Erso, because we know that in like a day and a half they're gonna find Jyn in a prison. So like maybe if we see her getting arrested, like, or even the back of somebody that looks, but that's me being like, I just want a little, I don't need a bunch of cameos, but I would have liked to see one person we didn't know yet getting ready for Rogue One, right? Because we see all of our people, we see Saw, we see Krennic, right? I think if we would have got like one little cute one from
Darth Vader
from Rogue One, Darth Vader,
he's in his pod sleeping.
I would have been.
He's going over his lines for his HR video that he has to film the next day.
Like I've got a fudge sundae with all the toppings and it's got whipped cream, but that would have been just a little, you know how you put the whipped cream on and then you just give yourself one little more, like, or like that would have been the whipped cream straight into my mouth, right? Is like if we saw Jyn Erso, you know, getting thrown into herself. But
that's one thing I'll disagree. I would have screamed, not in a good way. I think Jyn appearance, even back of her head, for you implication that's there, it's distracting as hell. It's Darth Vader hallway moment, which in retrospect works now for me. It did not initially. I thought it was scene introduced in Rogue One because the film doesn't trust itself. You have to have a familiar thing there for the fans. So I think Jyn would have been my Darth Vader. It would have been extremely, extremely distracting.
And I get that too. Like we're seeing everyone that we know getting ready for Rogue One, and then we're going to introduce everybody we don't know yet, right? Like we haven't seen Galen Erso yet, so we don't need to see him. So yeah, I get that as well. I get why they didn't do it. I like candy sometimes. That would have been a little bit for me.
I think the bigger shocker of the ending is Dedra's ending.
So
right?
good.
It was perfect. It was perfection. Zillion out of 10.
Narkina 2, Tony Gilroy says. So
he said Narkina 2 or 7.
I'm like, make up your mind.
It's one of the Narkinas.
Does it matter which number?
What's going on in his head where he doesn't know, but he does know it's one of 2? Like, what are the other ones that he knows for sure it's not?
I think he picked 2 random numbers.
It's funny because it's an Endor situation, because it's like Endor is like there's the forest moon of Endor, the planet, but the moon is also called Endor. Narkina is like the system. Narkina 5 is a planet in the Narkina system.
Okay.
Now Narkina 2, does that mean that is another planet in the Narkina system, that they're all numerically ordered, or does it mean it's another station, like another little like imperial station?
Right.
So it's like Tony, you're opening up too many worms.
Well, Yavin 4,
like canon.
Yavin is a gas
Lord pissing.
Yavin is a gas giant. Yavin 4 is the 4th moon of Yavin.
Yeah.
So
named after them. It's like, dude, come
named
on.
After the...
See, I'm already tired.
I think it's so. I think I listened to a couple of the same interviews, Tate, that you did with Tony Gilroy. I thought it was interesting. I listened to an interview with him where he said he didn't plan out the survivors. Like he didn't know who was gonna survive the show when he started it. That was really interesting.
That's interesting.
And that the final montage was always going to be like when they sat down to write season 1, episode 1, they always knew that final montage was going to be. And he said something like, if I could have them not be in slow motion as he's walking, it would be great. And I thought it was funny that he did walk in slow motion at some points. But yeah, kind of like that's always where we were going to end, which is like, of course you knew that. We all also knew that. Like everybody knew that's he's literally walking to Rogue One, or he's walking.
We know the end game is the journey.
It's a death march. It's a death march.
Oh my god.
But it's somehow like the way that you like, we know that it's a death march. Like we know that Saw is gonna die in that window. We know that he's walking to Kafrene and then to Scarif, right? But like somehow it's hopeful. Somehow it's a triumphant walk, even though we know, but I think that's because we know that he's ultimately going to be successful in what he's leaving to do. He's going to get his final messenger role, right? Is going to be a success, and he's going to bring down the fall of the Empire. So to take something that should be like ominous and make it hopeful is amazing.
He balances it with the survivors, I guess, with their perspective, looking into the horizon, Luke Skywalker looking into the twin suns, looking for
Yeah.
adventure, for hope, for a new thing, for a new beginning. So even though, yeah, Cassian is in a death march, man, where you put that now, like really, it's striking me. But then you have, Wellman survives. Who would have thought? Clea surviving, literally looking at the sunset or sunrise that her father is never gonna see. Bix, which that was a contentious one, so I don't know if anybody's ready for that conversation just yet. But
I mean, if we're done,
I'm ready.
Oh.
I want to know, and I thought about asking the internet, but I was like, I don't want to ask the internet.
Don't
do it. People that don't like
Tired.
it, I'm like, I kind of understand where people are coming from. But then if we would have killed Bix, would that not have been like fridging her? Like when you set a character as a love interest of another character, it's very hard to be like everything. If she's the wife of your main protagonist, anything that happens to her is going to happen in service of the main character.
Especially
but when
as a
you
prequel,
set up someone as a best friend, that's also the case. So I think, and I also think that saying that Bix is like the love interest is also diminishing her character. Like the way people are talking about it diminishes it. I don't think the story diminished it. And I also, my final point on it would be like, her having a child with her is very hopeful, right? She's there with B2. B2 is going to help raise that kid. Like the kid gets to see the sunrise that Cassian's never going to see. And I also would say, people will hate me for saying this, but like, if your take is it reduces her character to have her be a mom, what I would ask you is, are you a mom? Because I'm a mom. And for someone to be like, I can't believe they gave Sara a kid, they made her just a mom, I would be like, go fuck yourself. Like,
as you should. I'm sorry.
The fact that she's pregnant when she leaves Cassian. And she knows Tony Gilroy has said she knows that she's pregnant when she leaves Cassian.
He did confirm that.
He did confirm that.
Okay.
And the idea that makes her decision so much bigger, to know not only I love you, but I have to leave or else you're going to choose me over the rebellion, to change that to I have to leave you because if I stay, you're going to choose me and your child. You can live with us and raise your kid, but I'm going to have to do this alone without you.
But also,
right?
to what
I'm going to have to tell my kids stories about her dad who got the Death Star plans. And I'm not going to say her because I have a daughter, right? You're going to hear stories of I'm going to cry now. You're going to hear stories of your dad and what he did. None of this would be here if he hadn't made that sacrifice, right? Like, your dad's a war hero, right? Your dad did this. And for her to know that that is the life that she's choosing over the shorter life that might have been happier with the three of them together, I think is a big deal. And I think that, not to be like, I'm a mom, but I think that as a parent, you have a specific maybe take on that some people that don't have kids might not have.
Some of the more aggressive takes that I have seen have come from child-free people.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. And I have friends and mutual friends that are mothers, they have children, and they are feeling some type of way, and they have expressed these feelings in public spaces. I'm like, what do you mean my child makes me less? Yeah. What do you mean my child diminishes my value and my contribution to this? And I say this as a child-free person by choice. I was shocked at the visceral reaction that some people have had. I understand the pregnancy trope. I understand where these things are coming from. I get that. I also understand there's some previous stuff that in previous episodes, because we haven't talked about those episodes that Gilroy has done that I personally did not like. They weren't touched upon as heavily as the whole Bix thing. The blaze of glory, I hearing that I want her to die versus her like just going away off screen to be happy, to me, it's insane. And I can understand both things, but calling her a vessel for Andor's legacy might be the most violently misogynistic thing I have ever fucking read in my life. I cannot believe somebody actually wrote that. I'm like, are you watching Andor with eyeballs in your? I'm sorry, I feel really strongly about this. because it was just so visceral when it came out. Like the discourse literally overshadowed everything that was happening in the entire series. And now the potency of their love and their relationship is increased because obviously it's implied they're married. She's pregnant. They have a baby. So all of a sudden, what's going on with Jyn and Cassian in Rogue One? It diminishes Jyn and Cassian in Rogue One. Like, again, what the fuck are you talking about?
Good.
I'm dead serious at this point. Like, I can't discourse with you anymore. It's literally you are just talking nonsense. You are watching things with ear holes and eyeballs closed. None of it diminishes what happens with Jyn and Cassian in Rogue One. None of that changes.
Yeah.
None of it. What happened with Bix and Bix and Cassian? Why did she go to the planet where she was almost sexually assaulted? Like, are you not hearing yourself? What are you talking about here? What are you talking about? And I am sorry, I'm having like a total crash out over this right now because I've been so inundated because I'm on Twitter, unfortunately, and I can't quit it like a maniac, a drug addicted maniac. I can't quit it. So I have to hear every single thought that comes out from supposedly the positive side of Star Wars. Do you know what I mean? Like we can't even discourse in peace because everybody's taking jabs at each other over Bix. And I understand valid criticisms about the pregnancy thing. It's not even a pregnancy trope. Like if you're gonna accuse it of being a trope, like let's use the words that mean actually something.
Right.
Like that really bothered me. But when I called out the bury your gay trope, it's not because everybody has to die in Andor. Like she could have died the following episode and we would have avoided the bury your gay trope. Literally, that's how you avoid that. And the fridging and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if Bix would have been fridged had she been killed off. Probably there's going to be part of that would motivate Cassian.
Yeah.
And like make him extra sad, which that's falls into the definition of fridging. But the pregnancy thing, like when I saw it, like I held it together that whole episode. For me, again, the 10 was most impactful. 11 was sort of a setup and then it really tense. And then 10, I knew where it was going. That's when I lost it. Just because you compare it to him on the beach, like looking at the sunset and then at the sun and then Bix with the baby looking at the sunset. So now everybody's upset about the hypotheticals. What if that baby pops up in a Filoni show? Who gives a fuck? That's not what you're taking. You are literally leveraging a fan theory onto what this scene represents, which is hope for a better tomorrow. I don't know.
I mean, I think that
I'm off my soapbox. I'm sorry. I just felt really strongly about it.
I mean, it's like a difficult question. I mean, I'm probably not the most well equipped to say on it, but fuck it, I'll speak on it because I can.
Please.
And I've thought about it too.
Please.
But it's like, I mean, to echo the brilliant sentiments that have been said here, it is weird because the so-called positive side of this fandom so often self-cannibalizes and is ready to prey upon each other. And it's really interesting how this whole show has been like, oh yes, it's nice to have a Star Wars show that's about like thoughts and discourse and real ideas. And then that completely goes out the window when people come at it with personal lens on the entire time. It's not to say that it's really struggle to divorce yourself from a personal view on things because we're all human and we're all biased to these things. But when you get people who are watching the show trying to see what they want to see versus what you're getting, I think that really jars a lot of people. I think the view on Bix has been, I will say it this way, I think it has been the people that have criticized and really torn that final scene apart. I find it violently misogynistic. I think it is absolutely despicable to make women monoliths and they have to be one singular thing instead of women having strength across a multitude of domains. You can have a mother. A mother is an insane strength. There is no greater strength than a mother, to be honest. If there's anything about burning for a future, that is what a mother does to the nth degree. And then you have Claire, who's strong and determined in her own way. She has her strength. You have Mon Mothma and her strength and her conviction. So I think, there's criticisms which are valid and have been raised. And again, this is a predominantly male writers' room, so of course there could have been improvements, and of course there could have been other, chefs in the kitchen in that department. But there's been a multitude of women in this show. There's been a multitude of strengths on display, and although they're not been all perfectly realized, and there's room for improvement, I think it's been a great stepping stone. I think it's been a good stepping stone, and to see people write off Bix so quickly because it doesn't adhere to Gen X Cassian, AO3, all the Wattpads, because it doesn't fit that view, because we're so quick to reduce these characters to baseless to baseless impulses, as if someone can't see someone they admire and look at them longingly. You can't see Jin and look at them and be like, wow, this is a person who is like remarkable and incredible, and that really resonates with me. Versus, oh yeah, they fucked in the elevator before they went down. That's what happened. He's done. This
They
is
call
the
it
reality.
flirking. I'm not quite sure. What's the
Criffing?
To say
What's
that
the
there's
Star Wars
room for both of those things.
Yeah.
Correct.
You also can kiss Jin Urso in the elevator when you're about to die.
Correct.
At the end of,
Like that's
yeah.
you can yearn for a bit of romance as
Connection
you're about to die.
at the end of your
Right.
road.
I love the
and-
fact they
and
didn't
still,
kiss. By the way, even if he is, let's just say she is undeniably attractive. They both are, right? So
Yeah.
I don't blame that. And he knows Bix is out there, sure. I think he's desperately in love with Bix, sure. But he's a company man. Like at that point, right? He's there to do his mission. The fact that they hold hands was great enough for me. Also, JJ, you brought up the sunrise. You mean the explosion of Scarif, right? I never thought of that as a sunrise.
The image of it.
Sun's rising.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I never thought of that.
Allegory, like the image is,
yeah. I mean, if anything, I've been all about symbolism, right? But like,
It's
right.
Oof.
I just want like there's a bit of like what would you have rather had happen, right? And the fact that you're like using this baby as like a weird prop, like if you just would have seen Bix on Mineral with B2 looking out by herself, you would have been like all good. But the fact that she's a mom now, you're like, boo, we hate moms, or like she's just a mom, and it's like as opposed to just a farmer, as opposed to like this idea that his legacy lives on through Bix, but also that's his family, right? His family is there.
And he lost everybody.
And
he lost everybody.
He lost everybody. But this idea, it's been very interesting. And like when people are talking about it, I'm like, okay, like I've read some longer, like, okay, like I understand what you're saying, but also I think that you're like respectfully wrong. Like that idea that she's a mom now, so she can't be anything else. Or I think people have a complicated relationship with women in Star Wars that are also pregnant and/or moms and/or both at the same time, or in like hindsight or in like story, like Padme thing, Hera in Rebels. Like those are the two I can think of right now that are like the prominent characters that become mothers, that have a kid, that we meet those kids. Leia, obviously, with Ben Solo and all of that. So you can hold your thoughts and your feelings in that space and like unpack like what issues Padme dying in childbirth, for example, or Hera all of a sudden has a child at the end of Rebels, which I love that scene. I thought it was very sweet. It doesn't change anything about Hera to me, in my opinion. I just thought that the animation of Jason was really freaky, but that's a whole different topic. But like, I am not going to leverage, excuse me, those criticisms or whatever those feelings that I have against Andor episode 12 of Bix on Mina Rao holding that baby. I'm going to treat that scene as an individual moment in what it represents in the series as a whole. But like Tate put it really nicely. Like everybody's bringing in their own personal feelings and personal lens, and they're not sitting in the moment with Bix and what that represents for her.
Yeah.
And I think to want her dead in a blaze of glory over what she got, I personally find that misogynistic.
Yeah.
Better dead than somebody's mom.
To say death isn't a better alternative to motherhood is
motherhood is the most insane
vile.
thing. Horrible. It's fucking horrible. I cannot believe we're saying this.
It's so interesting that I never even realized that the Hera thing was a thing that people didn't like until people
some revisionist history is happening right now.
And it's a very strange thing because like Hera is Space Mom. Like we all call her Space Mom.
Space Mom.
So like it's fine if she's the mother figure to the children that she's adopted as part of her crew. But she can't have an actual kid because now we don't like that. It's like, what are you talking about? And like, as someone that, I do Star Wars cosplays with my child, like we're father, daughter, mother, son, like characters. Like that's always what we're looking for in fiction.
Right.
is like a new thing drops and you're like, who's the parent child I can cosplay from this?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what I'm always looking for. So I also think it's interesting the like the wild turn on Filoni that's happened. I don't know if these people have always hated Dave Filoni, and now that Tony Gilroy has made a good show, they're like, finally I can talk about it. Or if these are people that were like, in Filoni we trust, and now that they've watched Andor, they're like, don't let Filoni get his grubby mitts on it. I'm like, I think that there can be different types of things happening. I have t-shirts, I have button-up shirts, I have sweaters, right? Like, and I wear them all in different occasions, right? You wouldn't wear a tuxedo to the beach. You don't need Tony Gilroy to write all of Star Wars, right?
If I could chime in real quick, a couple thoughts that I have is I love the ending with Bix. I'm glad that she wasn't killed. I think that she's suffered a lot. Like, she keeps suffering. And as my limited view, as perspective as a guy, like, I can only comment on it so much, but I would like to believe that the death of Dr. Gorst was his name, right? That was her agency, and she took into her hands. She did it with Cassian running support. You know, it is what it is. But I'm glad that she didn't die in the end. It didn't propel Cassian to do something different that he wouldn't already have done. What I do like about this, even though she has a baby, because I see both sides in real life and in fiction, is the idea that like a woman's only worth is her child. And then there's a flip counter to that, which is you only have a woman's only worth is their child. They're very pro-child, and that if you don't have a child, you don't have any worth, right? Like there's people on one side saying one, and then the other side saying these characters don't have to have children to be worthwhile. But the idea that there are multiple female characters in this show, some of which have a kid they left behind, Mon Mothma, a potential whatever, maybe with Vel, Clea. I don't know how Star Wars works, but maybe they don't have a kid, right? Like I don't know how that works in Star Wars.
But they can create twins through the Force.
As you know, sure.
Nice.
You know, that like, but all of these women are worthwhile. I think the greater thing is some people think that the only way, and this is also, again, Star Wars at its worst, the only way you can be a hero is you have a kid. You're a hero, you have a kid. Heroism is genetic, and being the one is genetic. And, like, everything is passed down parent to child, and that's, like, your legacy. I think what Andor really does well is the idea that, like, legacy is all the different things you leave behind. Nemec's manifesto, the things that you set up for the future, whether you have a kid who's going to live in that future or not, you're still thinking beyond yourself, which the Empire does not do. They're always thinking about themselves, the here and now, the order for their own ego, their own thing. But I've never heard anyone talking about Andor, the Empire talking in Andor about setting things up for the future. Once they're gone, the galaxy will run like clockwork. Like, they don't, as far as I remember, mention anything like that. And I think feel like that, sorry.
The legacy for that kid, I think we're so, like, Star Wars pilled that we're like, the legacy is the name Andor and the feats of Cassian Andor. And I'm like, the legacy that kid represents is the love between Bix and Andor, right?
That's
and the sacrifice that Bix made.
And the freedom of
That's
the future.
all that kid is. And
Thank you.
and the hope for a new future. It's not, we'll see baby Andor again in the Resistance, right?
I cannot take you seriously the moment you say, oh, is this Andor's son? Like, I know you're not a serious person.
Oh, have you seen the people already saying, like the two women on Hoth in Empire Strikes Back? Someone was like, what if one of them is Clea because she's at the communications desk? And I was like, what if I
I've heard that more.
Smacked you in the head? Like, how about that? Like,
I like the idea of, like, imagining where they would be in different,
different situations.
Places. I mean, for me, Vel and Clea go live on Mina Rao with Bix, and they're the fun lesbian aunties to this child. That's my dream. But that idea of, like, you know where Cassian's story ends, and Melshi and the alien that's running behind them, right? And Krennic, but like there's now a whole batch of characters that are open-ended, and we all went into the show like, well, anyone who's not in Rogue One is going to die.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea of subverting your expectations, not by killing a character, by keeping them alive, is like hilarious that they did that. Of like, oh, you thought Woman was going to die for sure? No, he's so happy. Like, he's with his girlfriend in an amazing jumpsuit.
Sarah, were you naysaying me when I was saying that like these characters could live, and you were like, that's what you said for Rogue One. That's what you said to me. You were like, that's what you said for Rogue One.
That completely subverted my expectations. I thought they were going to die too. And I'm like, I can't believe you kept these guys alive. Yeah, I was the one that was like, nice try, Dimithri. None of these people, we don't see them again, so they are dying. Yeah.
I was ready for them to die.
You were preparing yourself, right? Yeah. You were bracing yourself for impact. I get it. Did you guys watch Rogue One right after? Because that's what we did.
Yeah. Well, soon after.
Before.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Insane.
I watched it before, and then like you know, I had Sarah over, I had my other friend over, Matt, and like we were like, oh, this goes straight into Rogue One, and we kind of paused.
Yeah.
There was this awkward silence of like, who was gonna say it? Yeah. It was like,
gotta do it. Yeah.
Are we gonna watch it? Yeah, okay. So as we close up this podcast episode, because I know that we went over time, and if everyone has to peace out, we peace out. But where do we go from here? Have we learned lessons? As an overall summation of Andor, like, what are the lessons that we've learned? None of us are writing for Star Wars right now, right? We're not part of that process. But
unless anyone wants to announce something right now.
Yeah, I would. Well, I would love. But like as fans, but also as people, we're reviewing it, we're critiquing it, we are, you know, learning things from it. Yeah. What's the overall summation? What did we learn? What does Star Wars have to learn from the amazing experience that is Andor?
Well, Star Wars learned that the ex-head of Lucasfilm Visual Effects is going to give a 2-minute AI TED Talk about Star Wars, and that they're going to use James Earl Jones's likeness to do a Fortnite AI NPC. So to say that we are in dark times is an understatement. We are actually in the middle of Armageddon. The next big Star Wars movie is by a guy who gets his ideas from Reddit and 9gag and has the sense of humor of a 12-year-old. And Sean Levy. Sean Levy. And the next big
But the next actual movie is Mando and Grogu.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, that's right. Oh, well, I mean, Jon Favreau gets his ideas from Reddit as well, let's be honest.
That is true too.
We got the way to get in the 13-year-old boy crowd is by getting Ryan Gosling, the internet's favorite Sigma alpha male, to be at the front of Star Wars. You've got the Rey movie delayed. You've got Simon Kinberg, who has notoriously been attached to terrible movies for the past 10 years, who's been given his own trilogy. Yeah, Dark Phoenix, Apocalypse.
Oh my God.
He's given his own trilogy while Rian Johnson is on the back burner again. To say that we are in dark times.
So the future's looking bright. We're leaving it on a hopeful note.
Despite all of this, despite me being so negative and so critical,
but truthful though.
JJ can attest this. I can be a bit negative sometimes.
I was like JJ Abrams, and then
if I knew JJ Abrams, I would be in Narkina too. Despite all of this, I for some reason have confidence that going forward, they are going to look at this and be like, okay, we need to try and make more content like this. I think they're not going to get Tony Gilroy back. He's done. He's going to do other stuff. Bless his soul. He needs to go be free.
Say goodbye to Tony, correct?
I'll miss you, buddy. I'll really miss you. You're the only one trying new things. You're also the only one who's like publicly standing up for Kathleen Kennedy, which is really cool. I really appreciate you doing that.
Like the way that everyone's just like, no. Like, one that fought for this, and if she didn't fight for it, it wouldn't happen. And then people in the replies are like, no.
He's the only one as well who's kind of like smacking Andor elitist on the head and being like, hey, we wouldn't be here without Grogu. Like,
thank you.
It all kind of, it all exists. So I will miss him deeply. I think Disney is going to try and do more projects akin to this, not in the
Mhm.
sense of it's going to be as mature and as heavily political and intense, but I think they're going to skew away from the apolitical nature of like the sequel trilogy and the in-betweenquel trilogy that is the Mandoverse right now. That's not shade, but you know, they're not too politically charged besides those
Mhm.
awesome scenes in Ahsoka, which are some of the best scenes of that show. I think we're going to get more of that now going forward, which I think is the right direction. I think you can I'm so pro you can have your cake and eat it too. I might not seem
Yeah.
that way because I got a lot of criticisms, but I am pro that reason. I fully endorse you should have a show like Star Wars Resistance and Andor at this running at the same time. You
Yeah.
should have Young Jedi Adventures running at the same time as Andor concurrently. I want to watch Andor and then I want to watch Nubs and friends go find like the magical fruit. Like that's what it's about. That they can exist, they should exist. I think anytime someone says something like, "Oh, Filoni's trash, Gilroy should do everything," I think it's a very silly, blunt statement that if you shave all the bullshit off of it, it comes down to we just want all or we want all the media made with the same quality and
Mhm.
same effort. And I think that going forward, hopefully that's what they'll take from it. Again, it's looking a little dark over in movie land. Where's Sharmina by Chinoy? I haven't seen her. I really want that Ray movie, but I'm gonna try to stay optimistic. I think they're gonna take a good lesson from this. I really think they will. That's my TED talk. No AI. No AI.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of in a similar boat. I'm not really optimistic about the films. I'll bet all of you, all three of you right now, $100 that this Ray film is never gonna happen. I think it's
Yeah.
gonna get canceled. I have no confidence in it, none whatsoever. My feelings with Dave Filoni have always been complicated, but I am not as comfortable as voicing them online as I have been with other things because it falls into two categories. People really love him. He's got really strong fan base. My critiques come down to like when he's good, he's really good, but I think he tends to approach a bit of a lazy approach to Star Wars, a bit of a surface level for me, a bit of a presentation more than the actual like the meat of it.
Yeah.
Because I did not enjoy Ahsoka as I should have. That should have been cream of the crop, but it was fine. I wanted more out of that. I wanted Ahsoka. I did not want Rebels season 5, which that Rebels season 5 undermined so much of Rebels season 4 for me that I have a hard time like putting them together. And the only reason I was like making jokes initially, oh, Tony Gilroy should do everything. He shouldn't. I don't want to watch Gorman genocide in every single piece of Star Wars that ever exists.
Yeah.
Nubs should exist with Andor, 100%. Thrawn, like future of Thrawn concerns me. I have not gotten the proper Asajj Ventress take yet. So like I am 0 out of 3 right now. So my hopes are very, very low, but I love the shit. I'll eat it up. Am I gonna sit in a theater watching Grogu do dumb, stupid things and make gooey noises and do a little bit of genocide on like species of like little eggs? Yes. I'm gonna like every time he vomits, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, make a Funko of that vomit exactly in that color. Yes, because I am a capitalistic pig and I love this shit.
You're gonna buy the
At the same
popcorn
time,
bucket?
you bet your ass I will, depending on what shape it is, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as far again with films, no trust, no confidence whatsoever, and that's the part that's killing me because I just watched a theater full of Revenge of the Sith nerds and have a really good time. So people are starving for a really good Star Wars film for that experience again in the theater. And I don't see it happening. Mando Grogu will be fun, but that's about it.
Hmm.
But Andor was a lightning in a bottle, and I am okay with that. If that remains one time lightning in a bottle, I'm happy with that. And I hope Tony Gilroy comes back to at least do some writing. He doesn't have to do anything major. I hope he's invited back to the table. So that's where I'm at. Like, it's great, but it's messy. It's not great. The AI is not, yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But and I appreciate Rogue One much more because of Andor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like way more, way more.
Good.
Oh man, I don't know why I got teary-eyed thinking about what I was going to say. I was also listening to you guys, but I feel like I've seen those memes of like when you realize that in all the billions of years you're alive at the same time that Andor is airing,
Yeah.
and how lucky we are. I think to view something as lightning in a bottle, like you said, JJ, is like such a good way to view it. Like this idea that not every Star Wars show has to be Andor, just like not every HBO show is going to be Succession. Like when you think about like The Wire and The Sopranos and Succession and Breaking Bad and Lost, right? Like these shows that exist and these stories that are so powerful, not every story is going to be that, right? But I think the lesson I hope anyone learns, Star Wars or anyone else in TV or movies or entertainment, is like tell a story that has something to say. Like I think that's my big thing with like Daredevil Born Again. I was like, you're not saying it with your
Yes, they're
chest. Like
not.
you're just peppering stuff in, but like you have to take a stand. You have to say something. And I think that is, I mean, I'm an English teacher, right? Like I am begging kids to read and I'm begging them to analyze and not ask ChatGPT what ChatGPT thinks. And this idea of like story is what matters, right? Like you have to have something to say, and these stories that connect people. I mean, I just sat in a completely sold out IMAX 70 millimeter screening last night of Sinners at 10:25 p.m.
Nice.
Literally
So jealous.
every seat was gone, right? And the emotions that I felt watching that are very similar to what I felt watching Andor, of like this is just good fucking art. Like it's just good. And like sometimes you don't have to expand that into something else, right? You don't need to do that. It's just like let someone make something because of what it means to them, and it's going to mean something to other people, right? I have no cultural connections to the plots of Sinners, right? But this idea of like, dang man, like you had something to say and you said it beautifully. And I think that's what Andor is. You had something to say, and then it's funny to listen to Tony Gilroy talk about like, hey man, there's a lot of genocides and I just had to pick one. But like that idea of like,
my God, it's horrible.
You are saying something so timeless and so timely at the same time, and it's a story people need and it's a story people want. So like have something to say, stand up for something, and then tell your story the way you want to tell it. And whether that be go write your fan fiction about Clea and and Vel and then send it to me. Right? Or like write a book or write an assignment for your English class, all of my students, right? Like, or make a film or make a Star Wars thing or make an anything, like just, and it comes down to the Nemec Manifesto thing of like, just try. Like you just have to try. Like just put your shit in there, do it, full send it, and just try. And that's like, which is like Star Wars, the iconic Star Wars was there is no try, right? Do it or don't do it. But to flip that on its head of be like, just try. Like I think in my notes I wrote like, you just have to give a shit. Like about the world, about people, about the thing that you're making for Star Wars. Like if we watch Mando and Grogu and it's fun, and you can tell that they gave a shit about having fun, then it'll be fun.
It's gonna be a good movie.
So just give a shit, just try, I think is kind of like where I leave it.
You guys are moving me to tears, so thank you for that. The just try part definitely plays a part in filmmaking. In the context of the narrative of Andor, I think that like Yoda, do or do not, there is no try versus Nemec, just try, I think extends to if you have the power, use it. If you don't have the power, try. Like that's all you can do. And I think that the thing about Andor is that when you take out the fantasy stuff, and it's just the science fiction rise of fascism, everybody is human. Everybody has roughly the same strength, right? Nobody's calling on the Force to do anything. The tools that they use are what makes the difference, and how hard they try and what they care about. Those are the important things. I don't know whether Andor is specifically lightning in a bottle in a way that it spun off of Rogue One, and Rogue One was their choice. And I think they methodically worked hard to make Andor seasons 1 and 2 like so amazing. It wasn't, and maybe I'm misconstruing lightning in a bottle, but like the idea is that like a lot of time and effort went into it, a lot of care. It had a thing that it wanted to tell. It took its time. And I think that that's like super important, is the effort. I don't think anything comes out good if you rush it. It used to be the idea that like if you rush something, the only way to make it good is to throw money at it. But I think as we can see from all these shows, whether they're MCU shows or Star Wars shows or DC movies or whatever, is that when you rush things, when you don't take your time, you don't put your effort in, you can throw $1 billion at it, but it's not going to erase a mustache from Superman, right? Like, it's just not. Because you didn't take your time, you didn't let them refilm it after they rushed it, and, you know, that's a reference to Justice League, right? But, like, the idea that, like, taking the time and care, and you need the people on the crew, the people involved to care. And I think that's also a tough part. They need to care for the audience to care. And I think it's super important. Maybe Star Wars learns from that. I don't know. But I think that also something, I guess, final thought, is that, like, Tony Gilroy, this idea of Andor can't be applied to everything other than the effort, other than the heart and the soul, whatever, and the blood and the sweat and the tears that goes into it. That you can apply to everything to give us quality stuff. I think that Star Wars and the MCU and DC and all that stuff lives and dies on their expansion of their genres, expansion of their franchises. Some things are going to be for kids. I think they should expand in every single direction for every single group, except for the group saying you shouldn't expand. Yeah. Like, that's the one group not to expand for. Expand for every single group. Everybody will find something they love about Star Wars. Andor might not be everybody's thing. It might not be. You know? And that's okay. I mean, some people want Mandalorian and whatnot. Some people want Rebels. Some people want Resistance. Some people want, like, one or the other. Some people hate Last Jedi. Some people love Last Jedi, whatever. The idea, though, that we can all like different things about Star Wars and hopefully get projects that work for us, whether it's our taste or whether it's our specific demographic. Like having Star Wars for kids, having Star Wars for women, having Star Wars for a very eclectic group of people. Awesome. We don't need Star Wars for people who think that Star Wars is only one thing for one type of people. That's the Star Wars that we don't need, and I don't think should exist. I think Andor was amazing. I also think that rewatchability is a metric that people forget about. Definitely. Sinners, people are seeing it multiple times in theaters. That is revenue. Every time they buy a ticket. It's not so much that you put a piece of crap on the TV or in the movie theater and let everybody watch it once. You get your money once, and that is it. All best-selling movies of all time have rewatchability. So if you want money, you got to have quality, which brings people back to rewatch things like Avengers Endgame or, you know, dare I say Avatar. There was rewatchability there. There was.
Yeah.
Titanic. With Avatar,
you know?
Titanic?
What about
Titanic is fire. Titanic is fire.
Titanic was the best-selling movie of all, or highest grossing.
No, it is, but like you said, rewatch. I've never seen that movie after first time. I refuse to.
I had a friend. In elementary school who saw it like 10 times in theaters.
I beg your pardon.
I think it was just to see the boobies.
Why you hate yourself, whoever you are.
So he said it was. Well, he didn't say it was only for the boobies, but he did. It was his favorite movie. He said Kate Winslet was his crush, but he was also
the boobies.
He also came out as gay later in life.
Whoa,
interesting.
That was all.
So it was Jack, not Rose.
It was the boobies.
It was Jack. I think it was Jack. You know.
Our family had the double VHS.
The double VHS.
I did too.
Have you seen the guy who collects all of them? He's got like hundreds of double VHSs. It's
I had to explain to my students
what a VHS was.
What a VHS is.
Oh god.
Yeah, I would have to yeet myself into the sun.
I feel old.
You feel old.
The first time I watched Star Wars was when I was 5 years old and I moved house and my parents were moving everything, and obviously, you know, they got to do all the hard work. So my dad opened his original trilogy VHS and let me watch them. I remember pushing it in. I remember. I'm there too. I'm one of you guys. I'm an ally.
Yeah, that's the one I had. When it opens,
Fuck Valentina.
It has all of them, and it opens in the little booklet. Yeah.
Yeah. I have the same one.
thank you everybody for being a part of this. Yeah, it was all great. Sarah for being co-host throughout this whole thing. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Woo! As we close up, JJ, where can we find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
You can find me on Twitter and TikTok under Lady Dragon JJ handle. I talk about Game of Thrones a lot, not so much lately, but Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, Star Wars, and other fun pop culture things. Books I'm reading, movies I'm watching, TV shows I'm watching. So if you want unhinged thoughts, that I'm your person. I don't.
Yeah, you're gonna be talking about Night of the Seven Kingdoms next year now.
If I don't end it all in next week.
She's crashed out once this week. She can't do it again.
Once, friend. Sarah, when you mentioned earlier, you like the cub and the wolf and the cub story trope. Like, we could have had that. We could have had greatness.
I have a tattoo of the hound, so like the hound is my boy.
That's awesome. I love it. But yeah, you can find me on those two platforms. That's where I post most of my stuff. So I appreciate you having me. This was great. So thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Tate, live from New Zealand. Where can we find you?
Literally.
Dude, you can actually see that, like, it's gone from nighttime to daytime behind me. It's insane if you watch it back. You can find me at Star Wars Facts Guy on TikTok with the 2 little underscores on each side because we've got to be a little different. I've got so much Andor content coming out. It's actually freaky. My drafts, I think, are like 25 because I just keep seeing a comment and I'm like, ooh, I really want to talk about that. Ooh, I really want to talk about that. So I've got so much stuff planned and we'll just be bouncing on from. Ooh, what was that?
That's how I win.
That's how there's a lot of cool stuff coming. There's a lot of cool stuff. And we'll be talking more Star Wars. We'll be unpacking the future as it goes on, as it goes forward. But I'll also be reviewing some movies that I watch as I go forward because I need to start locking in on my idea that Star Wars is your jumpstart to finding other movies and other things and other media to consume. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Awesome.
Hashtag stay tuned.
Sarah, thank you for being co-host for this whole season. Where can people find you? What do you got coming up?
You can find me at Ms_Marauder on Instagram and TikTok. We are getting ready for Anime Expo and San Diego Comic-Con. So we're gonna have a couple builds for that. We are doing Ghost Agatha and Wiccan, hoping that to be done by San Diego Comic-Con. And then now we've got Luthen and Little Clea on the agenda. So if you're at San Diego Comic-Con, I think we're bringing the Worm. We're bringing
the Worm's back.
We're bringing Mini Muad'Dib and the Worm again to
amazing
Comic-Con. And then just general life stuff. And then I have to shout out Only Hope Supply because they made this Andor shirt with the Bix with the Ferrix brick, and then the back is like all different designs. Hold on.
Whoa,
that's incredible. That's cool. Sick.
So I'm like obsessed with this shirt. So,
or do they have it on sale? Like, is it in a Etsy shop or?
Yes, it's you can find them on Instagram at Only Hope Supply, and they have an online shop. But get ready because if you like this style of shirt, they just released a tech one. They've got Bad Batch. They've got Skeleton Crew. They got the whole thing. So. I have a lot of these shirts. Yeah, and we've got KB and Jodder done, so we'll be out and about in our KB and Jod
The KB
cosplay,
looks incredible. I'm so
thank you. Yeah,
it fills me with joy.
I can't figure out how to put the headpiece with the back on it over a wig. So stay tuned as I try to
we unpack that.
As we unpack that. Yeah, as I try to learn how to make that happen.
That's so sick. I love that so much.
If anyone wants to find me online personally, you can find me at This Is Dimithri. I was on a string of game shows last year, so I got like some interesting people that I have no idea that follow me now. So cool on there. Or if you're like old people, like I have my older fans follow me on Facebook.
You're killing me.
Shout out to them. I had a lot of like people who were a little bit older getting into game shows, watching game shows every single day that like started following me on my Facebook fan page. This is Dimithri is for that. But for the most part, the Keeg Show, that's all the Keeg podcasts and everything that we do can be found on TikTok and Instagram. Those are our 2 biggest social media platforms. We're also on Threads and on Blue Sky. We are no longer on Twitter. I'm sorry, JJ, you are stronger than I am.
So, I am Twitter's strongest soldier.
Thank you for your service. But yes, you could find the Keeg, because the Andor After Show is just one of the many podcasts that we do. Even though the Andor is over, I'm shedding my tears, but like Andor's over. But there are many other pieces of media to come. So definitely tune in to any of the shows that the Keeg does. The Andor After Show, sure. Comic Talk is every Thursday. We have the Keeg Talks, where we talk about movies and TV shows and that sort of thing. There are a lot of movies coming out soon that we're going to be talking about. So definitely stay tuned. If you're watching us live, you're watching us on youtube.com/The Keeg Show. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, do your thing there. Also twitch.tv/The Keeg Show as well. And podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and SoundCloud. So wherever you listen to podcasts, listen to our podcasts. Maybe you're listening to it right now. Thank you so much for doing that. Write a review, like, comment, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. Shout out to everybody in the chat that was here earlier: Ginger Snark and Harith and Eli Skywalker and Priscilla C and Brent Lloyd and someone named Tate Gerber and Tito's Dorito and everybody else. Thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. That is, I think, pretty much it. Oh, shout out to all those editors that are doing those clips and the edits and everything on this. I just wanted to shout them out. Youngling Slayer, I think, was one. The Polestar.
The what? The what?
What?
Youngling Slayer. That's the name of their TikTok.
Youngling Slayer. Vader would never do that. Vader would never do that.
He would never stand for that. And then also, randomly enough, YouTuber Pete Peppers doing some great episode breakdowns and recaps.
Awesome.
For Last of Us, for Severance, for Andor. I mean, I don't think Pete Peppers needs me shouting him out. I don't know him, but he has a lot of followers. So good stuff, man. Good stuff to everybody part of this community that's sharing all these things. That's pretty much it. Thank you, everybody, for watching and or listening. Thank you to everybody on this show: JJ, Tate, Sarah. Once again, I'm your host, Dimithri Perera, with co-host
Sarah Zitney.
And this has been another episode and the last episode of the Andor After Show for Season 2, episodes 10 to 12. May the Force be with you.
Super fast, gotta beat the boss and get the loot, 'cause it's the king.